Can you hear me? Testing. Sound, can we put the sound down? All right, good morning, everyone. We're hoping you can come and sit down. We'd love to start. Can you hear me? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. Are we live as well? Can you, Kush, can you check the link? Is there anything? No? Saying what? Begin. Yeah, are we able to start the live as well, please? No, not yet. Are we ready? Kush, are we ready? No? It's not showing. What live are you on? As soon as I get the thumbs up that we're live, we'll begin. We're good? We're good. Sorry? Yes, but we'll just start if she's not here. All right, I think we're live. So good morning, everyone. Morning. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a morning person. So getting up, dressing up, showing up, even getting makeup done this early in the morning is not something I take for granted. So whether you're here with us in person or whether you're watching live, we appreciate you and we thank you for being here for what we believe is a really important conversation. My name is Wandia Gichuru, and as the co-founder and CEO of Shop Zetu, I have the honor of being your host this morning. For those of you who don't know, Shop Zetu is an online fashion marketplace that hosts over 140 fashion, beauty, and accessory brands, almost all of which are Kenyan owned, and the majority of which are also made in Kenya. Our goal at Shop Zetu is to strengthen the fashion industry by making fashion and lifestyle brands of all price points widely accessible online. So we've built a one-stop shop online fashion destination, and we actually like to think that we are the future ASOS of Africa. If you haven't visited Shop Zetu yet, please do so. And if you have a fashion, beauty, or an accessory brand that you want to grow online, then please come list with us. So the key reason that we organized today's event is because, as some of you may know, for various reasons, the conversation around local fashion has recently picked up momentum. And a few weeks ago, I participated in a Twitter space conversation hosted by Standard Media Group, and they shared the results of a survey that they'd carried out with hundreds of Kenyans, where only 5% said that they buy any local fashion. Mind you, these are digitally savvy, social media active, exposed Kenyans, and yet only 5% had ever purchased anything that had been made in Kenya that they wear. I think we need to let that sink in for a second. A country of over 50 million people who get up and get dressed every single day, and yet we're not dressing ourselves. So these are the kind of things that keep me up at night. And when I think about it, I ask myself two questions. Why? Why aren't Kenyans wearing Kenyan? And I think the second question, which is more important, is what are we going to do about it? And that's what today's conversation is about. We're here because we all need to do something about building the Kenyan fashion industry. And by fashion industry, I literally mean everyone and everything involved in the design, production, retail, and consumption of clothing and accessories, including shoes and bags and everything that we wear. In Kenya, the fashion industry as a whole was estimated to be worth over 65 billion shillings in 2021. And that number is growing every year. So in a few years, it's going to be worth 100 billion shillings. And yet local fashion is only taking up but a tiny fraction of that amount. And this is something we believe has to change, and has to change quickly. But before I go any further, allow me to take a little step back. As some of you might know, my journey with fashion didn't start with Shop Zetu. Just over 11 years ago, my friend Anne-Marie Burugu and I started a ladies' clothing brand called Vivo. Neither of us had any experience in retail or in fashion, and initially all we did was buy and sell things that we were importing from Asia. There's nothing wrong with that. But we quickly began to realize that the products we were bringing didn't really work for a large segment of our market. The size range wasn't wide enough. The colors and print options were limited. The styles themselves didn't always resonate. And even the ones that did were widely available elsewhere. Many other people were bringing in the exact same thing. So there was nothing unique about what we were offering. So by 2013, thanks to the encouragement of my friend Sally Karago, who's not here, but I think one of her team is, we took the leap and we started to design and make our products here in Kenya. At first, we didn't tell anybody what we were doing. We just made the products and we put them in the stores right next to the ones that were imported. And guess what? No one could really tell the difference, at least when it came to price or to quality. But what we did start to see is that people loved the styles and the fit. We started to hear comments like, finally, I found pieces that feel like they were made for me. which in hindsight makes absolute sense. Why wouldn't clothing that's designed by us, for us, resonate better? Clothing is so much more than simply what we wear. It is also deeply connected to our identity and how we feel. Fast forward to 9 years later, and our 3 fashion brands, Vivo, Safari, and Zoya, are 100% made in Kenya. We currently have 19 stores across Kenya and 1 in Rwanda. And the Vivo Fashion Group, yes, we are now a group of companies, which collectively employs nearly 300 people. And on average, since 2011, we have grown our revenues between 30 to 40% every year. Can you guys hear me? And honestly, I share this not to sound as though we've arrived or to blow our own trumpet, not at all. There is so much we still struggle with, and there's so much more we plan to do. But I share it because whatever milestones Vivo has reached is evidence that local fashion is serious business. It is a real thing and it can work. If nothing else, it is proof that Kenyans are absolutely ready to buy made in Kenya. And Vivo is just one tiny ship in this massive ocean of opportunity. Collectively, we all need to lift this tide so that all ships can be raised. Local fashion has the potential not just to transform individual lives, but it can change a whole country. And we must see it for what it is, a way not only to celebrate our identity and express ourselves, but also a way to create jobs, to stimulate our economy, and to generate income for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Kenyans. And let me tell you, Kenyans are ready to work. Every time we advertise for a single production job at Vivo, the next day we will have 100 people lining up, applying for that job. There's no shortage of people ready to be part of this industry. And from our experience, a brand that will produce locally will create 5 times as many direct jobs as a brand that imports their products. And that, thank you. And that doesn't include all the other businesses and entrepreneurs that will also get to work with the local brands, the stylists, the photographers, the models, the makeup artists, the content creators. When you make locally, the content you see on Shop Zetu is all proudly made in Kenya. Fashion brands that are close to their market, brands that will listen to their customers and can respond quickly to what their customers want, brands that will work with other local businesses and entrepreneurs will have a huge advantage and a massive multiplier effect. And we will be far more sustainable and much kinder to this planet when we buy local, because so much less of what we produce will need to be disposed of or will go to waste. So our thriving fashion industry will actually benefit all of us, whether you're a policymaker, whether you're from the media, whether you're a fashion designer or a retailer, a content creator or an influencer, a lecturer or a student, a business who has offerings tailored to the retail and fashion industry, those of you who lend money, those who supply machinery, tech and logistics companies, or even the tax collector. I don't know if we have any in the room, but we all have something to contribute. We all have something to gain. I've had the fortune to travel to many textile hubs around the world: China, India, Egypt, Thailand, Dubai, South Africa, Korea, Mauritius, Ethiopia. And trust me when I tell you that as a country, as a region, as a continent, that we have everything we need to grow this industry exponentially. We have the entrepreneurs, the designers, the creatives, the producers, those who market, the retail infrastructure, Retrack is in the room, the logistics and the tech, and we have the 50 million consumers who get up and get dressed every day. There is no reason why half of the retail outlets we see in our malls are not carrying local brands. Today is about finding solutions. We may be starting from a low base, but the industry is gaining momentum. We see it every day. We just need to turbocharge it. Today is not about whether mitumba should continue to exist or not. That's an important conversation, but I don't think it's one for today, maybe another day, another forum. Today is about how can we make local fashion so attractive that anyone who can afford it will choose to buy it. There is potential in this industry beyond our wildest dreams. We just need to own it, and we need to stop holding ourselves back. I believe there are 3 tangible things that we can do and we must do that are achievable if we work together. One is we need to make local brands more visible and more accessible. How can people buy something if they don't know what's out there and if they don't know where to find it? Secondly, we need to improve the quality and reduce the costs of making local. And I know that may sound contradictory, but I'll explain a little bit more about what I mean. We also need to expand the range, the variety, and the price points of our offerings. There is demand for fashion at all price points, from the high end to the most affordable. But we must make more products that the average Kenyan can afford. If we can do these 3 things, not only will people know what's out there and how to find it, but we will also change this perception and the mindset that local fashion is substandard, or it's too expensive, or it's not unique enough. So back to costs. One thing I believe, and there's some who may or may not agree, but I strongly, strongly believe this, one thing that the government can do immediately is to push this agenda, is to remove the duty on imported fabric. Up to 70% of the cost of making any piece of clothing is the fabric. And as we wait for our local textile mills to expand and improve their offering, which we will support and continue to do so, we need to stop starving this industry of the raw materials that we need to make our products. That one change alone would allow fashion brands and designers to reduce our costs, therefore reduce our prices, and it will widen the offerings that we make significantly. When people complain that local fashion isn't unique enough, let us be very clear. It's because we are all sourcing from the same limited fabric options available on River Road, in Nairobi Textiles, in Eastleigh, and even in Maziwa. And let me tell you, COVID made us discover all those places. Huh? If you've seen me climbing up heaps of rolls of fabric in Maziwa, you understand why we're there. But on a serious note, it doesn't matter how exciting your designs are, if we are all using the exact same fabrics, it is very hard to make anything that unique. We desperately need to have access to a wider range for us to produce options for this massive market that we want to serve. And I hope it's something Linda will talk about when she talks about Rwanda. Speaking of Linda, we've got a few amazing speakers lined up this morning. First, you're going to hear from Anne Mutahi, who has spent the last 5 years as the SME advisor to the president and to the government. We're thrilled, Anne, to have you. Anne has had a particular keen interest in the textile and fashion space and is a great champion of the Made in Kenya agenda. You'll then hear from Linda, who's flown in all the way from Kigali to be with us. Linda's from Collective Rwanda and from Haute Basso. If there's one country in this part of the world that has a clear vision and a strategy and is making serious gains in championing their local fashion industry, it is Rwanda. Who here saw Prince Charles and Camilla sitting at the Rwanda Fashion Week? Who has seen the Arsenal football players wearing clothing from Rwandese fashion brands? Iona, you've just come from there. I hope in the Q&A you'll share some of what you saw. This is how seriously they're taking the space. And let us learn and listen and learn from our neighbors. After that, I'm hoping Caroline will be here to introduce our panelists. Oh, you are here? Yay, you made it. Caroline's not, she'll explain, but wait, thank you, you're here. Each of our panelists is representing a different part of this industry and they will share why local fashion is important to them and what they're doing about it. And then we'll open it up for questions, comments, and reactions. So please have your questions ready. Everyone's views are welcome. Every opinion is valid. Those of you in the room have some nice Shop Zetu pens and books, so you have somewhere to write down your thoughts as you're listening. And if you're live, then please comment on whatever platform you're watching from, and we'll hopefully be able to include some of that in the Q&A. Hashtag We Wear Kenyan. Karibu again, and now please help me in welcoming Anne to the podium.
Thank you so much, Wandia. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Do you know I can actually feel the creative buzz in the room? It's such a pleasure to be in a room full of designers, creative people. I mean, up from here, even the color scheme is actually amazing. So once again, thank you very much for inviting me. I really want to appreciate you, Wandia. Not only for organizing today, but indeed for the passion and for the commitment that you've had to this sector. I want to also applaud your success. I think she deserves another round of applause. Well done, well done. We're proud of you. And also to recognize the many other fashion designers and people in fashion that are in the room who have had the privilege over the last couple of years to interact and meet with. You are an awesome lot, and you should, I think, celebrate yourselves a lot more. So thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for what you've laid out as to why we're here today, and the question that we need to all try and tackle. But I think even as I do so, I'd want to maybe begin by just doing a very broad brush of who are we as Kenyans, what do we aspire to? And I want to just focus on the aspirations that we have as a Kenyan nation, which, as you know, are captured, I think, very vividly in Vision 2030. And that is that we want to be a middle-income country. Now, what does that mean? That means that for the average Kenyan who right now has an average annual income of about $2,000, we want to move to at least having $7,000 to $10,000. That's when you're a middle-income country. So we have a very grand aspiration. We also want to tie that up with the aspiration of the African Union, which is known as Agenda 2063. And if you were to look at 2063, they actually recognize that most importantly is our character as Africans, as Kenyans. It's important that we have a strong cultural identity, a common heritage that we share, and of course our value and ethics. And I think when you look at that and you tie it up to where we are now, even within our East African community, which has very similar values, we are proud that right now we are such a huge bloc, just within the East African continent. Under 300 million people with Congo there. Congo brought in another 95 million consumers to the already 250 that we have. So we are a huge bloc with lots of opportunity. We are a young African continent. Over 70% of us are under the age of 40. If you look at Kenya, for instance, we have 18 million employees. Half of that, again, is that age. And that is when you're actually trying to now answer some of the questions that Wandia is posing, is to ask ourselves, what is the profile of the Kenyan consumer? Why is it that we find that we're not actually buying Kenya? She's mentioned some of the reasons around cost. And I think when you look at the fact that analysis has been done around the purchasing power of the average Kenyan, how much does an average Kenyan spend on clothing? I think that's something that we'll probably discuss up here and you need to factor in, because I think it's an important component even as we try to sell Kenyans. However, in spite of all that, I believe that the creative economy is critical. It's critical to the development of our country and our economy, not only in defining who we are, and I think when you talk about why don't we buy Kenya, it has a little bit to do with our identity. How proud are we of wearing Kenyan? How proud are we of our culture? Can we compare to our Nigerian sisters and brothers? We cannot, can we? So I think we need to do a lot of work in terms of building up our own pride in who we are and using the many different components of our creative energy to actually do that. For the truth is that we do not lack in creativity. That we do not lack. We do not lack in terms of jewelry, in shoes, in many, many areas. So I think that is going to be a challenge that is there. Now, I think what I've drawn up for you is the fact that there is a lot of room for fashion designers, for local apparel designers, and the industry to be part and parcel of the growth of this economy. And I think it's critical that we place ourselves as key players within that particular sector. And the reason I'm saying this is because I think there's a lot of work that has been done within the private component of the textile sector, but I think there's a different kind of collaboration that you're probably going to need with government to ensure that some of the areas that you actually need to have removed, like textiles, like duty, and many others, are taken into consideration. Now, when we look at the fact that where are we as Kenyans, we find that in terms of actually producing very good textiles, we do that quite effectively in a very different way. If you go to the EPZ zone and you look at what is happening under the AGOA, you will find that the skills, the machinery, the competencies are actually in country. Now, how is it that someone in Kenya, and when you look at how much do we actually do in terms of export of apparel in Kenya, is actually quite awesome. It's the second highest manufactured good in this country, and it's usually around $360 million. That is not small. That is actually a huge amount. However, it's still under 5% of our economy. So there's a lot of room for actually growth. So now, if you assume that we have benefits for a certain small proportion who export, what can we do to ensure that some of those benefits, as Wandia was talking, are given to the rest of the local industry? I think that is a crux of the question. How can we actually do that? Now, I think when we look at other countries, and Wandia mentioned the very many that she's traveled to, if you were to look a little closer at some of them, and I'd like to look at two particular examples. Let's look at what happens in Turkey. As we all know, this country is flooded with, if you're not wearing Mitumbi, you're wearing Turkey, or you're wearing Vivo, isn't it? It's one of the three. So what is it that Turkey has done? Because Turkey has managed to be a key hub, not only for Africa, but indeed for even Europe, in terms of making sure that they're actually the apparel center. If anybody wants to have a brand made or fashion made, where do they go to around that area? They go to Turkey. We've also got Sri Lanka that is not very far from us. And you know, Sri Lanka are known for one particular, should I say, line. Lingerie and, you know, our nightwear is known to be made in Sri Lanka. And they actually brand it like that. Is that true, Wandia? So let's probably just have a quick look at those countries and see what is it that we can learn, you know, and probably begin to move forward. Now, when I look at it, and I'm sure there's many ways of looking at what it is that they have, apart from the fact, and I'll give the example of Turkey, is that what are they known for? They're known for speed. They're known for being very cost efficient. Am I right? If you want to something that is new, don't we go and get it from, you know where we go to downtown, eh? That's Taveta, isn't it? And many other places. They're known for their fashion responsiveness in terms of being able to design something very quickly. They're known for their good distribution mechanism. And imagine they're also known for their very friendly people. You know, and when you look at all those boxes, I think we can try and actually tick at them. However, let's go a little bit deeper and see, so how did the Turks actually do it? And what I find is that it was an excellent collaboration with the government and looking at the entire value chain. Now, when I look at ourselves, I find that we're here today as fashion designers. But even as you design, the fact is that you need so many other people in your value chain. What I don't see sometimes within your sector is that coordination and that kind of, should I say, unity and purpose. And I think that is an important part that I would encourage people like Carol here, yourself, Wandia, and others, to actually come together and begin to form. And say, listen, we want this to be a major industry in government, major industry in fact, in the economy. And we need to come together. We need to make sure that, you know, even from the very, as you're saying, textiles, from even what we're calling fiber, that it is included in the conversation. And why is it important? It's because there's so many handoffs in your industry. It's not a simple industry, as sometimes we try to make it. It's actually quite complex and has a lot of steps. For instance, if you look at even fiber, even if you decide you're just going to import it for the time being, there's a cost of electricity that you actually need to look at. There's a cost of conversion of water. There's a cost of transportation, you know. And what it reminds me is that probably it's time now that the industry begins to move into some of these special economic zones that we have. Why? Because you're all together. You know, I mean, not very long ago, we went into the EPZ, I think it was 2-3 years ago, and we were shocked to find that even buttons had to be imported. Are you trying to tell me that Kenyans cannot do buttons consistently to actually be able to sell to all these EPZ guys? I was even shocked to find that even the packaging material that actually goes out has to be imported. Why? And when I look back, I think it's really a matter of the fact that maybe we're not all together, maybe there's not enough coordination, because I know for sure that we have the energy, we have the ability to do so. So I believe that there's a component of, I think, coordination that is required, so that you can also be able to lobby as a collective to government. I remember about two years ago, we had a forum, and we hosted them at KICC, and we were able to get, I think, a good representation of the sector right across. We got some textile millers in the room to listen to what they had to say. We got some designers. We got people from the textile hub downtown. And it was a very, very interesting discussion. And I remember as a result of that discussion, when we asked them what was, I've come to see was a very simplistic question as to what is it that you require to actually change. And they said what Wandia said today is just material. What we realize is that because there's so many different players, they were actually acting against each other. For instance, when we talked to the guys who are in Thika who are making textiles, they said that it's not in their interest to lobby for people like Wandia to get cheap cost-effective fabric. Why? Because they want them to go there. So when we asked them, so actually why don't you? It became a matter of electricity, power, you know, machinery, not the right machinery. You know, when we went to Rivertex and asked the same question, diversity, because don't forget Kenyans are also complex. You know, as you look, we're all fashionistas here. And when we're always looking at other countries to see what they're wearing, isn't it? You know, so you actually want diversity, which sometimes we're not able to make. However, we actually did go to government, and they actually did go ahead and pass that particular rule. I don't know whether you're aware, not only in Kenya, but even at the East African level. However, the problem that is there is implementation. You know, how actually do you implement this? And I believe the component that is missing there is for the industry to go and tell them, how can we implement it? In other words, who's going to bring it in? How do we make sure that it's not abused? How do we make sure that even if we were to bring it in as an input, because the change was that it would become a cost-effective input and therefore have a much lower or zero duty. So I think there's a lot of room, and I want to throw the ball back into your court and tell you that I really believe that government needs you to advise them as to what to do. Very often we think that government knows it all. They don't. They're civil servants. They need you to actually come and be able to collectively, with good numbers, with good research, tell them that, listen, this is who we are. This is what we can become in this economy, and therefore this is what we require from you. That is a conversation that government is always willing to have. So I want to encourage you and to congratulate you for the strides that you have made. You know that the Made in Kenya, Buy in Kenya campaign is there. I'm sure it can be improved with your input, but I believe that it has had an impact. I know within government, it became almost like a law, you know, and that's when we started hearing, but they're so expensive, those clothes, isn't it? So I think that there is a lot of room for improvement, becoming more cost effective, and doing all these things together. I think we've been all guilty in the past of doing things in a silo mentality. I believe to catch up, we need to actually do a lot of things at the same time. Even as you do your brand promotion, you're also doing your efficiencies, you're also doing your coming together as a collective, you're also making sure that all the handoffs that are there and all the requirements that are needed to make you a promising industry that contributes significantly to the economy and indeed to the region are done. So I think with those few remarks, I hope I've given a lot of food for thought, and also that the discussion that we will have here is something that we will take away. I want to recognize my team. I can see Linda sitting over there from the SME Advisory. I can also see Anwar Mai from the Ministry of Industry who is here. I also want to say that CS Betty has taken this sector very seriously, and has even appointed a textile advisor within the Ministry of Industry to interact with you all. So I think it's important that we push the envelope in terms of just making sure that we are able to get to where we actually want. Once again, thank you very much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure interacting with you and being with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. And yes, whichever government is coming in, we're here, we're ready to work. Linda, welcome. Please give our Rwandi sister a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Wandia. I have big shoes to fill because I'm actually going to use slides. So I'll share a little bit about Made in Rwanda and a bit about Odbaso. So we can go to the next slide. All right. I am the founder of Odbaso. We are a fashion and home brand. We started in 2013. Our whole mission, and I'll give you a bit of context, when we started, we thought we knew everything. We wanted to make African designs that would go to international market. We quickly realized that wasn't going to work. Sorry about that. And realized that we could reinvent what Africa looks like. And also consider, like Wandia mentioned, sourcing outside of Rwanda. So we actually source our fabrics from China and Turkey. We produce prints that sort of mimic our Imigongo style, which is our black and white sort of Aztec style. And what's been really important for us is collaboration. So a lot of the things you'll see in the pictures that we have a bit of weaving, embroidery, and for us, that also emphasizes what Made in Rwanda is about. It's not just about the individual, it's about working with our peers within the sector. More importantly, I'm here to represent Collective Rwanda. The next slide. Yeah. Collective Rwanda started in 2015. It was by 4 designers, House of Tayo, Inzuki Designs, and Sonia Mugabo, and myself. When we started, it was just to have a conversation, talk about our challenges, because the fashion sector can be kind of lonely. When we started, fashion was sort of like a hobby. Our parents just wanted us to be doctors, to be teachers, and so when you said you want to be a fashion designer, like, you can do that on the side. So that's how we started. Now we're a group of 15 brands across Rwanda. The way we're set up is all we require is that you're a registered brand within Rwanda, so you have an RDB registration certificate. That was key for us because in order to affect change within Rwanda, we had to have formal businesses. And the way you're formal is if you're registered. And the second thing is that you are either a designer from Rwanda and you're producing within the country. So that's open to all of you if you choose to explore that. A few of our highlights as a collective. The next slide. Yeah, there we go. Is we've been able to record data. So when we go to government and policymakers, it's really important that they understand the impact you're having on your communities. Otherwise, they won't listen to you. So what we've been doing is actually tracking how many makers and producers we all work with collectively, how many showcases we've all been invited to, and showcase our pieces, pop-ups, some here right here in Kenya, through different partnerships. And that's helped us to elevate a space where we're able to meet royalty, like Wandia mentioned. And something really important about Collective is that we actually produce some of our own events. We're always growing, but Collective RW Fashion Week is actually an initiative that is driven and designed by designers. It's important for us because no one else can tell your story better than ourselves. We've had a lot of great partnerships to realize this. One of them being with British Council. We've had one of our designers showcase at the International Fashion Showcase in the UK, as well as meeting other notable fashion stars like Naomi Campbell. This all wouldn't be possible without partnership. And for us, Rwanda has been really a blessing for the creative sector. We've been able to partner with our Ministry of Trade, our Development Board, HEVA, who's here in the room, and another notable companies. We wouldn't be anywhere because the way we run is there's no fee to be part of Collective. We wanted what you give to us is your innovation, your contributions, and your volunteer during different events. So I really wanted to highlight something that's really special about Rwanda, is our Made in Rwanda policy. A few years back, East Africa stood up and banned secondhand clothing. Not everybody took that up. Some people stepped back, but Rwanda chose to stood fast on banning secondhand clothing. And as a result of that, we were excused from the AGOA trade agreement. So this inspired the Made in Rwanda policy that's under Ministry of Trade, and it has two channels. One is to bring together government interventions under one policy framework. It also addresses supply side bottlenecks, electricity, infrastructure, shipping, tax exemptions. And this is in close coordination with the private sector. This makes it very unique because we cannot expect our policymakers to design policies without us at the table. And that's something that Collective has been very engaged with, especially when it comes to tax exemptions. One thing we realized that when the policy was rolled out, there was no clear process that if you're a new designer, you're able to realize how you apply for a tax exemption. So Collective actually sat with the Ministry of Trade and designed a form that was accessible to all designers and actually textile producers and tanneries to be able to enjoy the exemption. So right now, Rwanda offers a VAT exemption for all Made in Rwanda organizations. As a result, we've actually grown. So what we initially thought was a burden, being excused from AGOA, has actually increased our trade. So our trade deficit has decreased by 36%, and our total exports have increased by 69%. So with COVID, our data is a little bit backdated, but by 2020, we had actually increased our value to $34.6 million as we explored shipping to different markets like DRC, Belgium, Germany, and Hong Kong. So I'd really like to encourage all of you here in the room to see how you can band together, because there's really strength in numbers in being able to grow each other I don't see it as competition. I think when you're in the creative sector, it's very easy to see yourself as individuals. But I think in order to make Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda really strong entities, we have to work together. So thank you for this opportunity. Look forward to learning from all of you.
Remember, I said we have a lot to learn from our neighbors. Now I want to welcome Caroline to host an exciting panel session. So, Karibu. Do I need to introduce you? I think, okay. Okay, so I'll introduce the panelists as Caroline comes up. So, Connie Aluoch. Our proud international lecturer in fashion, stylist, media personality. Mark Stephenson from Sandstorm and the Mark, the name of the factory.
Opportunity Factory.
The Opportunity Factory. Patricia Kihoro, storyteller, content creator. Wakiuru Njuguna from HEVA. And where's Esther? Oh, and Esther Nyawira from Elsie Glamour. I know. Well, there's one.
There's one for me. But I'm the KYM. So as my amazing panel settles down, I'll sit at the end of the stage so that I don't give you whatever it is I have. I am not well, but I promise to be here. So I'm the Kenyan who thought, it must be warm again. Didn't realize I had a fever at 2 a.m. And then woke up and I was raspy, so I sat there and I gargled for a little bit, and then told Wandia I'm on the way. So I do a lot of these things. I've never been in a room where I am slightly intimidated, and it takes a lot for me to be intimidated. Because it's not just a room of amazing creatives, but it's a room that is hungry. And a room that is hungry wants answers. And I cannot allow this to be a talk shop of any kind. So it is good that I'm the one person who's not of the industry, because I get to ask the questions that give us the answers that allow us to lead, probably with a clear action plan. I just wanted to know, is Job Jura in the house? Just because I'll be making reference. Fantastic, you're there, home 254. And it's something that Anne said that triggered me to make notes about Job. Who is Nguo Affordable? I see them on IG. Are they here? No? Okay, super. So to my panel, this is how I'm going to start. There are microphones everywhere. It's like passing on the Maasai talking stick. Do not take mine because you do not want whatever it is I have. It is not COVID, but it is bad. It is not COVID. And Connie, I'm going to start with you. You've studied fashion. You've curated fashion. You've created fashion. Are you wearing yours?
No, this is Carol Kinoti.
Okay, is she here?
There she is, that's Carol Kinoti.
Okay, there. And then you're now an advocate for local fashion.
Yes.
My question to you is, the journey over the last, what? If I say 20 years, it means my age and yours is going to show. But has there been progress? Is the needle moving? And remember, you've worked backstage at major, major fashion shows, all right? And then you curated fashion. You were literally that person, dressing us to appear on the cover of True Love and Drum. In the case of me, just screaming, I don't want it. But then you created fashion, you know, your little African dress. Yeah. And now you're an advocate for local fashion. Yeah. Is the needle moving?
It is. And I think in the last 2 years, that's when I have actually had time to sit down and think about and be intentional about fashion. And this is during Corona, especially the time when we were all staying home. Most of us, especially stylists, I'm sure Babu and Wamboy are here somewhere, we couldn't style. Oh, perfect, they're here. We couldn't, it was like, you can't, remember we had to social distance. So I couldn't do a shoot. Makeup artists and my friends, we weren't working. So personally, I don't know about the rest, I didn't work for 9 months. When you don't work for that amount of time, you get to thinking, what can I do? What are the solutions? So I teamed up with Carl Pinot, who's also here, and we did the little African dress. And then from then, I've been able to think about other solutions, and hence the Social Sunday Fashion Brunch. Some of the designers have participated here. I think I see Icon, I see Sydney somewhere there, Olga and everyone. So these are all, I am just trying to create solutions, because the solutions are not going to come from other people, they're going to come from us. And as you know, my Nation column, I only feature Made in Kenya. When I was going into Nation, I told them if I'm going to work here, I am only going to feature Made in Kenya. And those are the steps I'm taking as an advocate and as a stylist and as a fashion lover and supporter of Kenyan fashion.
Okay, so I want to pick up off that. You know, you only feature Made in Kenya, which is great press. The optics are whatever. The bottom line is everything. I'm sorry, this is a business conversation. And Patricia, I want to come to you. And let me put context to what I'm about to ask you, because I need to go to the money, because that's where it's at. Nobody's here because we haven't seen each other in a while. During her time as First Lady, Michelle Obama made it a point where American designers, but more importantly, African-American designers. Does that sort of thing matter? Does it work? Because, and I'm asking you in particular, because you've made it your business, you know, you're not Brian Babu, you're not Connie, but you showcase Made in Kenya. You showcase Kenyan designers. Does that thing matter? And does it matter that the people who have the most visibility choose Kenyan designers and wear it proudly?
It matters because if one of the things that I get a lot from whoever is seeing me or consuming whatever it is that I put out is, goodness, I can't believe that's Kenyan. And whether it's fashion, whether it's music, whether it's jewelry, that was the one thing I would always get. You mean that's a Kenyan brand? You mean that's made in Kenya? And it's less, for me, it's less about also, okay, this is for a special occasion. How do you participate every day in a small way? Whether it's a tank top that you bought from Shop Zetu, right? That you can wear with a pair of jeans that you also got from Shop Zetu. But then it's a small thing that you can do every day. So it's not just about spending the 20,000 on an outfit for a special occasion. It's also feeling that as a Kenyan who has a day job, going to a bank or you know, whatever it is, you're able to participate in a small way, so that if you spent 1,000 bob on 2 items, a piece of jewelry and a top, you still put some money in, because it's not just big money that matters, even the small money matters. And it's not just the big brands, it's also the small artisans, a small, you know, a lady who has passion for making jewelry out of brass. And so she makes lovely earrings, but she's not necessarily a huge brand, but she has a small Instagram page. If I can not only post it on my page, but also spend money, you know, to buy a piece of jewelry, whether for myself, a gift for a friend, so that I'm also putting money into the business, but encouraging other people to discover another brand that they may not know, it then does matter when we say you can get a great pair of earrings, a lovely top that you can wear every other day, a pair of shoes or sandals, and everybody gets to participate in their own small way, so that it's not just about, okay,
Eventing.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stay with you for a moment, because that's, I think, where Vivo won me. And this is not a conversation about Vivo, but everybody who knows me knows her pants are Vivo, the bodysuit is Vivo. Thank goodness Akinyo Dongo gets something, but it's because it's cold in Kavai Koti. Okay? But that's what I actually, it's how you stole me, and I've told you this many times before. Vivo made it possible for me to buy something at 1,900, 2,500. Why is it, and I think, Mark, I'm going to bring you into this, even if I want to talk to you about apparel. Why is it we seem to think made in Kenya is for a big event that means it must cost 20,000 shillings? Why is it in this room we don't believe that we can still do everyday items, this item, leggings, because they're staples, and staples of fashion matter? Why do we run away from that? Or do we believe we've got to be Dolce & Gabbana, if it is not haute couture, we won't do it? And you know, you're all creatives, I'm not. Maybe for you, if it isn't catwalk ready, then you don't want to do that. What is it about y'all crazy people that you don't want to give us leggings, t-shirts, bodysuits? You don't want to give me bracelets? What is it? Or is the margins not good enough? And you can tell me it's not worth it.
I think that one of the similarities between Sandstorm and Vivo is that we're both vertical businesses. But if you look elsewhere in the world, and by vertical I mean we have our manufacturing all the way through to our branding, our retail, our distribution. And I think as businesses, both of us have had to take that path because outsourcing wasn't an option, because there wasn't a stable manufacturing base. If you look around the world, very, very few fashion labels are vertical. They're all stratified. They have manufacturers who supply, and raw material. You know, the whole supply chain is, the value chain is broken down. But because everything is very much in silos, I think it's one of the biggest constraints on the growth of Kenyan fashion and African fashion, is that if every designer has to build their own factory,
that's madness.
It ain't gonna work.
It's not gonna work.
Because I've been doing it for a long time, and it's really hard. Just one point related to EPZs, which we touched on earlier on, because we've been talking a lot about being made in Kenya. I think there are, and we heard about Rwanda's experience of walking away from Mitumba, and I know that we're not going to use that as a topic today. But I do think there are risks that come with being focused on EPZ for export revenue generation, because none of those businesses have any loyalty to Kenya. They have loyalty to the tax benefits. So if you look at all of our bags, you'll see that what we say is that we are made by Kenya. Because not only are we made here, but Kenya makes us. And we will only ever be made in Kenya. We will never be made anywhere else. But you can be made in Kenya, and then you can be made in Turkey, you can be made in anywhere. But we're made by Kenya because of the relationship that we have with Kenya and Kenya has with us.
Okay, that was brilliant. Esther, when you look at this room and you hear about policy, you hear about, because you're a young designer, I hear you took a small trip to Vivo, you said, I want that. Good for you. Question is there room? So I actually had to write this very, very clearly. Is the time right, or are you making sure that when the planets align, you will be there? Is the time right for you to be creating your own fashion brand as a very young woman? Is the time right? Or are you just making sure when the planets are aligned and the advocacy is right, I was already here?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both, to be honest, because I believe the fact that there are not many of us here, the time is right. But when it comes to the policies that I've found, like for example, I'll say, a time when I started my business to about 6 months ago, between then and now.
Oh Lord, 6 months ago. Hold her hand.
Between then and now, every time I go to purchase my fabric, it's 1,000 bob more expensive. Between then and now, it's every roll, it's 1,000 more expensive. So the prices that I had then won't be the same when I go to reproduce the same dress again. So my clients will be like, but last year you were selling it at this price. But now the policy, I feel like the policy currently, and I know we are working towards it like she had said earlier, they're a bit unfair for the Kenyan designer who wants to provide clothes at an affordable rate. The reason as to why Kenyan fashion is expensive is because it's expensive to produce in Kenya. And people, if I think about it, if I'm supposed to produce in Kenya, I'll have to make it more expensive. But if the policies were fair, like in Rwanda, the prices will really go really down, and it will be affordable to everyone. Yeah.
Okay, I love that answer, and I'm going to talk about policy making, and I know, and you're not part of the panel, but I will come to you on that. So, Wakiuru, You're the only organization that seems to have had a brainwave and said, we shall lend to creatives. Because literally what you're funding is an idea. And I'm one of those people. I'm like, do not give me an idea, give me a plan. Okay? And most people who lend money want to see a plan. They want to see a 5-year plan. They want to see, why?
That's a really good question. And so where we started is HEVA started as part of a collective. So there was a collective, or still is a collective called the Nest Collective, where artists were making their own work and figuring things out. Along the way, we realized that apart from grants, there wasn't another avenue for creative businesses to be able to access finance. And that's because there was it was a two-way thing. So there was a misconception around the industry by traditional financial institutions. And then for the creative side, obviously when you go to a bank, you're asked for collateral, you're asked for, land, security, whatever. It becomes difficult because the sector has a lot of young people, a lot of women. And so we did the craziest thing where we decided we are going to fund this sector. And we're going to try, we're going to try fund this sector, and we're going to raise money to be able to fund the sector. So more like a private equity kind of fund, but then a bit flexible. And for us, we were not looking at just the artist and the work, but then also the business model around the artist and the stuff that they are producing. So yes, there were ideas, but then they came with plans. So we were very, very insistent that to be able to grow your business, to something more sustainable, it has to be, yes, there's a creative part that's amazing, but then you also have to have a business side. And so that's how we were able to marry the two sides. Yeah.
I get you, and that's an important word, and I think it is very important you begin to use it. She said industry. And I don't know whether you realize you're not called an industry yet. And the way National Treasury works, they think in sectors and industries. So, and because I come from the creative space, until you begin to use certain words to define what you do, you don't get the ears you need to get. Because for the longest time, if you think about the music industry, ulikuwa mwimbaji. In fact, you used to be paid in lunch. You come, you perform, we will feed you and give you transport. You guys don't want that, but I hear you also told sometimes I will post you on my social media pages. It's nonsense. But and I know you need the exposure, but you're really nonsense. Industry is an important word to use every time you define your business and what you do. I want to go back to Mark. Mark, when it comes to apparel, because that's what you do, the spectrum is not only wide, it's wild. It's wild. The spectrum, and let me explain. The spectrum is somebody's willing to brag about walking around with a knockoff Gucci bag, okay? Yet on the other side, there's a woman who's waiting or is on the waiting list for Birkin for 5 years. The spectrum is madness. What does it take to create the narrative? Because here's the other thing you guys still don't understand, and I'm a storyteller, is that very few people buy a product, they buy the story. They buy the story. And I think the first story I remember of you was the Weekender that was featured backstage at the BAFTAs. And all of a sudden I wanted one. You understand? Because that's how media works. And I think you still haven't understood what that looks like. What makes something worthy to be waited for, but also to be copied, where the person who cannot wait for it or afford it at $30,000 is happy to wear the knockoff that is 3,000 shillings and still flex like they're wearing the original? Because remember, in this room are designers who are not necessarily going to create clothing, but apparel is huge as well. I mean, because women buy these, sorry, mine are not cheap. Women buy these things and throw them away every 3 months and then go and buy another. And especially young women. Before young women get to a place where they understand, buy good and forget about it, they're like buying these things. Where are they buying them from? True Cosmetics and Super Cosmetics at 20 shillings, 120 shillings. What do we need to do to get a share of that play?
I think a big part of it is just surviving.
No.
No,
but in a good way.
Okay.
So I've been running Sandstorm. I've been here for 15 years. I've been involved with Sandstorm for 18 years, and this year we turned 20.
Wow.
So we're a 20-year-old Kenyan brand, and we're a 20-year-old brand that's made by Kenya, and that's a big part of it. There's a whole generation of people that have grown up with Sandstorm. Kind of Sandstorm's always been there, and I think, and if you look at these brands, these luxury brands, a lot of them have years and years of heritage behind them, and you don't. And I worked in advertising before I got involved with Sandstorm. Sandstorm were a client of mine, and.
Wait a minute, Sandstorm were clients of yours?
That's not time for this panel. Anyway. Okay. You told me to keep it brief. But basically, we've done very little active communication. But what we've done is we've built strong relationships. We gave bags to Sauti Soul just after their first album, but we didn't ask them to promote us. We didn't ask them to say anything about us. We've got a kind of a pillar, which we call Incredible Kenyans, and we just kind of like fire product out to people, and we don't ask for anything back. But over 20 years, we've just built up really, really positive word of mouth, and that's the best way to build a strong brand.
Okay, that's how you build a strong brand. But do we tell stories about our brands at all? Connie, this is important, and Patricia, same story, yeah? Because nobody bought a Birkin or desires one, because that's the other thing about fashion. There is a very personal lending story, and then you lend that emotion, and it becomes desire, acquisition. There are people who are willing to go hungry to buy a shoe, you know? Are we telling compelling, engaging stories about our products so that we capture the minds of the market? Because I think, sadly, we also think the market owes us to buy made in Kenya. And they don't, sadly. They don't. Are we telling good enough stories?
I think now we are.
Okay.
Now we are. We weren't before because, before made in Kenya was not a thing. It was just a few people, like we who are in fashion industry, we used to wear clothes made by designers because these are our colleagues and we understand. But if you ask my sister who's a banker, she wasn't like made in Kenya, what's that? That was 5 years ago. But now when you go on Instagram, I mean, how many brands are here? Roughly. What,
and that's
60,
not
50?
everybody. No, there's a lot. This is
over
not
50
everybody.
brands here, right?
Yes.
I'm sure all of us in the industry are following each other.
Yes.
Right? We're following to see what, Baguk is doing or what, which other brand is doing. It's because now the brands also are proud and they're selling their own stories. So we're buying into their stories and we're following them because we want to see what's the latest bag or what's the latest Sandstorm or what's the latest Bakuka. Now brands are learning to tell their stories, and now we as followers and consumers of fashion want to be part of the engagement and know what's the latest thing that's out there. So I would say now we are.
Patricia, are we telling stories that are compelling, that evoke desire, that then convert? Because awareness is nicer, but to me, I'm in the business of ROI. We must go from awareness to purchase. Are we telling stories that are now leading to desire and desire to purchase?
Yes.
Okay, great.
The answer is yes. But what I will add on to that is a lot of the feedback that I get is people desire a Sandstorm bag. Right? Somebody wants Adele de Jacques earrings. So there's the brands that are so strong. I mean, I've had people in South Africa say, is that Adele de Jacques? I have to come to Kenya to get an Adele de Jacques piece. And it's like, literally, that's all they want. They must. So we have the brands that are strong in that sense. But then at the same time, I get a lot of people who would love to own, not just because it's Adele, but because it's made in Kenya. Not just because it's Sandstorm, but because it's a Kenyan brand. But they can't afford it. But then there's other brands who maybe don't have the opportunity to have the reach. And so for the people who desire, like for me, it started with Masai Market. It wasn't made in Kenya. It was, I love Masai Market.
I have known you a minute and this is true.
You know? So the kikois, the lesos, the fabrics, all those things, the jewelry, it's been years and years of just wanting to own those things, but now allowing people to be able to own something that they can say it's Kenyan, whether or not it's Sandstorm, as they work towards the Sandstorm.
Yes, we all do.
They have the opportunity to get there, because there's people who will save up for the Sandstorm, but in the meantime, because it might take them a year to get there, what can they own? What can they have for themselves as they work towards it?
And I will come to the permission items. But back to you, my dear. You who decided to jump in 6 months ago. What do your people want to buy? Because they surely do not want to buy some, you know, there's some designers in here. I mean, we'll all have to sit down, as Patricia says, and we wait a year to be able to say, hi, I'd like to order a dress from you. What do your people buy? Who are you going to create for? Because that's where the market is.
My personal goal and my brand's goal is to dress the modern woman from day to day activities, though the days in her ear.
Yes.
So I want her, when she's going to the office, she has something to wear. When she's chilling at home, basically your day, when you're going to a wedding, on a date. But what makes us unique as Elsie Glamour is all our pieces are unique, not only simple, but unique. I found, like, anytime my client decide, like, says your piece is unique, or rather when today I wore your dress, I get a lot of that, and I'm so happy when I get it back. Like the other day, there was a woman who'd call me back to tell me, whoa, today I wore this dress that you sold me the other day, and my colleague, who is always a party pooper, told me I look nice. It was such a big deal for her, and she said your pieces are unique and they are quality and affordable. Yeah.
Okay. I want to go back to the money conversation, because it is at the bottom of everything. Either we need it or we're making it. When you get the plans and the ideas, 2 questions for you. First and foremost, is anybody willing to collaborate with everybody? Or are people shy that if all they want to do is make, you know, bodysuits like this, that they can't go to Vivo? Because as Mark said, we all can't create factories. That's madness. Because if you do that, then your cost, once again, is also insane. So first and foremost, do you ever see on the plan, I would like to be able to have access to somebody else in the industry, okay? Or, once again, silo, mi nitafanya hiki tu peke yangu. Ama I'll bring Ankara from West Africa. That's my first question. My second question is, what do we have against a regular staple? And I say this because when Anne was speaking, she talked about how certain countries are known for certain things. Speed, known for, I know, like when you want beading done and sequins and all those things, India is known for that. What do we have against being known for a thing, and especially when it's fantastic for entry-level fashion? And that is as simple as fantastic t-shirts. What do you hear when you sit across the table from this room?
So to answer the first question about collaboration, I think initially when we started, because the sector was quite small in a sense and quite fragmented also, there was a bit of collaboration, but not like how it is now. Because now we are seeing a lot of brands talking about working with each other. We're looking at, you know, seeing brands talking about the possibility of figuring out the sourcing process and, you know, how can they be able to bring in raw materials together. And the problem is that they're figuring that out themselves. Okay. Because I feel like as brands, there's only so much they can be able to do without maybe some intervention from the government. So there are people who are willing to collaborate. There are people who have those plans, you know, like, for example, with Shop Zetu and bringing on board, you know, different designers on their platform. So there is that collaboration. I just feel that there needs to be a bit more support to be able to allow for that collaboration to thrive. When we were starting, we realized that a lot of the reasons why Kenyans were not, you know, wearing Kenya, buying Kenya, one of them is that there wasn't, like you're talking about, the staples, the everyday staples, like the t-shirt, you know, the white shirt to go to work and all that stuff. But then that's actually where the major gap is, in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah?
Please take notes.
But
Please.
that was then. We have seen the transformation of this sector since 2014 till now. And I'll give a personal example. Like today morning, I was so confused about what to wear because I have Siri Studio, I have Icon, I have Shop New Level, I have Vivo. So like I was lost for... Yeah, I was like, where do I even start? But what I'm saying is we're seeing a lot more brands start to realize that Kenyans want to be able to go to work. Maybe if you're working in a bank, you want to be able to wear like your white shirt and your, black pants, and that's about it. Yes, there are people who want to go for events and, wear a bit more print and all that stuff, but then there's also the flip side. So I'm seeing, and we are seeing a lot of brands being able to do this. And I think the question now is, how do we support these brands to be able to mass produce? Because now they're only producing, to a certain extent because of their production capacities and all these other issues we're hearing about the cost, etc. So how do we support these brands to be able to mass produce and be able to lower their prices and be able to support or, be able to venture into the mass production space?
So I'm going to ask a question to all of you, and then I'm going to move into the room. Before you can ask questions to the panel, I'm going to ask you a few questions as well. Wandia said buttons. And in my head, I asked myself, maybe that's not what we're known for. But is there anybody supporting the industry by supplying what would be needed? Zips, I don't know, little, beading that goes on the edge of stuff. Is anybody doing that? Or does everybody want to create a Vivo? And is it just a mental block? I mean, like, we do some fantastic beading. Is Shiro Waithaka in this room? She is? No? Okay. It's just that, I remember when I was buying trays and stuff, and by the way, accessories are also part of fashion. And she told me, the beading is done in Gikomba by this woman from Ukambani. She's not trying to do the beading herself. It comes to her, and then she puts it together. Are we against being the person in the industry that supplies the inputs? Or is there room for that? And anybody can take this question. Because I keep thinking there's too many spaces to be filled, yet we all want to create that. Mark?
Well, what we're working on at the moment, which is our next adventure, and it is on Instagram, but it's all a bit oblique. If any of you are amongst the 200 people following us, but we're creating a thing that I'm calling Opportunity Factory. Mm-hmm. And the first project that we're working on is something that actually came out of COVID. It was some grant funding from GIZ. And we're building a suite of very, very simple tools that we intend to use to disrupt initially the beading industry. Mm-hmm. Because communities aren't connected to markets.
No, thank you.
So the way that people talk about artisan craft is they'll talk about my beading guys, my brass guy, my weaving guys. Mm-hmm. But these communities aren't employed. You're not paying their PAYE, they're NHIF, they're an SSF. So what we're doing is we're developing tools which are going to be available for download online. Mm-hmm. So this cuff, I designed it using the tool, had a sample back. This took this 24 hours to turn around.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So what we're doing is we're addressing, when we looked at beading, basically communication was the greatest issue. So what we're doing is we're building the processes, we're building the templates, we're making them universally available for download, and every community that we onboard, the details of that, the direct contact details of that community will be on the website.
On the website.
And we
so
will
you can
only
decide
be
the beading you want.
Absolutely. And
yes.
we will only make a margin if there is any value that we're adding.
Okay.
Because there are too many people inserting themselves in production processes, adding cost, but not adding equivalent value, or indeed any value. So what we want to do is create the opportunity for people, for brands, to contact communities directly, for information not to be withheld, and to improve the quality of communication, and also attempt to set a new standard so that beading communities are actually paid while they train. Because often they just have to work, trial and error for days and days and days, for which they see no payment.
Right. Yeah.
So that's one example of what we're doing. But
okay.
there are ways.
Yeah,
So,
maybe
anything else?
I can also add. So I think it was in 2018, 2019, where we worked with the ministry and the SME advisory team to work within Uhuru Market and figure out how we could make it a center of excellence. So we did research and we did a bunch of other things. But one of the things we realized is that what you're talking about, like, is there someone who does only buttons, does only zips? There are people in Uhuru Market who do that. And part of the work we were trying to do is to open up the market and perhaps try and see how we could publicize what's available at Uhuru Market for designers to be able to access some of the services that are there or some of the raw materials that are there. Because right now, like I've had people saying, there's a disconnect in terms of like the movement of information. So there are people who are doing this, but then I guess not everyone knows about it. And we tried many things. We tried even, together with Vivo, to be able to bring them onto like an e-commerce platform so that they could be able to sell their wares, sell their raw materials online, and everyone could be able to access it. But I think there are people who are doing that. And we just need to be able to access them. So the issue is access.
Amplify them.
And amplify,
and
yes.
amplify them. You led me straight to Anne. And this is about policy and something that Wandia mentioned in her remarks. She talked about the fact that it would be great if we could get government to remove the tax on importation of fabric, all right? But the way the National Treasury works with KRA is that they look at sectors,
Yes.
they see where they can make money, and unless you have a body that then lobbies, and it lobbies through the lawmakers, and I know this because I just finished doing like 2 months of just lobbying against Finance Bill 2022. By the way, lobbying works, huh? You've got to be in the process. And if you'll allow me, I'll just go back a couple of years. When the reason we got VAT removed from sanitary towels is that Joki Ndongo heard me trying to raise sanitary towels. She told me, you're not fixing the problem. Of course I was hurt. I was like, what's wrong with her? I'm doing a great thing. She told me, what's the problem? I told her, young girls can't afford sanitary towels. She said, okay, let's find out how to make it affordable. And she comes back like a week later, and she tells me, your problem is sanitary towels are classified under luxury goods at the Treasury. And they sit with cognac, cigars, and Mercedeses. And all we did, and remember, she was a nominated member of parliament. She told me, you've got to give me voice, but I will write the bill and champion it on the floor of the House. That's how you can afford sanitary towels. Me and that crazy Supreme Court judge. She told me, get rid of the VAT. And it's still not VATable. Here's the other thing. Look for it as a line item every year in budget. Because every year, without fail, they try to sneak it back in. Without fail. How do we help this industry begin to work on policy and get heard at parliament level so that when the budgeting process starts, they already put their ask on the table? Because sometimes we ask too late. We ask too late. So I really would like you to talk about that, because I think they all need to know. Because it can't just happen because you hashtag it, by the way, mukai mukijua.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And I think you raised a very interesting point, which I think I was trying to bring out subtly. And that is true that, collaboration is critical. Now, I know you do have the Fashion Council, but I really believe that it has to be, as I said, from fiber to fashion. You need to look at the whole entire industry. You need to see it as a business. You need to do proper research. And when I say proper research is that, you're a sector that wants to dress Kenyans. How many Kenyans are there that can buy your products? Look at it even further, which is why I was mentioning the region. Say that you even want to be able to export to other countries like Congo, etc. So I think that business of fashion needs to be done. Now, when you do that business of fashion, true, there's materials, which is a good starting point, but let's be ambitious. Let's be ambitious. Let's say that we want all the different areas. Electricity is critical. You need actually even duty waivers on good machinery so that you can make volume. What is this volume that you're making? What is your aspiration? Is it that you want to be able to make 10 million pieces of apparel? You know, that's a kind of thinking that I think is required. And as I was, mentioning, there's many experienced, should I say, apparel makers in the room. I think it's time that they bring their experience together and look at it from start to finish. I think when you have that discussion, you then become a body, a force that cannot be ignored. So I think that's very important. Thank you.
And Wandia, I know you want to comment on that, but I don't think we even talk about how many people the industry can employ. And this is why I need you to start using the word industry. And the value this puts back in the country. Because until you have conversations like that, and then you find your CS, when that person is named, and you pay the courtesy call and you start putting the pressure on. It cannot happen just by sitting back. It's so important you do this. However, Patricia, I'm going to come back to you just one more time, and I have a feeling that both Connie and you, when Diana Opoti started 100 Days of African Fashion, she was way ahead of her time, like way ahead. But there was something there. What do we need to do today for this industry to have that consistency? I don't know, Kenya Fashion Week happens where? Like lies. You know I'm boring, so I wouldn't know. We don't have Kenya Fashion Week?
We used to, but we don't.
We used to? Oh yes, we did. There was one. Anne McCreath used to curate that.
That was Fafa.
So once again, unless we have a title sponsor, we might not be able to make it happen because we will not make the contribution as ourselves. You know, you got to start somewhere. And I need to tell you this before you start this conversation. And you know, businesses in Kenya don't support local fashion. Let me tell you, they sit and they watch you do your first one, your second one, your third one. If you're lucky, EABL walks in. But consistency is very important. And I hear this from people write to me and say, these people, we sent 3 proposals and Safaricom did not support us. Whoa. They want to know whether they can go and justify what they just did at board level, at ESCOM level. So be fair. But are we ready? Should we? Or will it be just another crazy day? You're already doing it in a small way with the branches. Yeah. But is it time for Fashion Week?
It is, because eventually that would be the end game. And the fact that, so the first fashion brunch, we just did it, and it was amazing. Like, there was Deepa and Olga, I think they're here. We didn't have any sponsors. I just sold to them the idea, and I'm like, guys, let's try and do something, and we did it. This next brunch, we'd been looking for sponsors for over 6 months. We finally got a bank, ABSA, to sponsor a fashion creative event.
Yes.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. And the Kenya National Chamber. I mean, for me, I was blown away. And they're like, okay, Connie, when's the next one? I was like, okay, hold up, just give me time. I need to figure things out. Mm-hmm. But, for them, they're like, you have to be consistent. And they told me the same thing. They're like, Connie, don't come and do a brunch and then and then you're quiet for 10 months. We're not going to take that. No. Because we have a report to do to our, as you're saying, to the other board members. Because immediately after the brunch, the next day, I had to do a press release, I had to do a report, everything. I had to do literally the next day. On that Monday, I was busy typing. So, personally, I've told myself I have to be consistent. Number one. And then also from the industry, it's just getting people who are able to, because, to participate, again, we have to put in some money. We have people to pay. That's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. So I think it's also industry participation from the designers, that it's a collaborative effort. That's the bottom line.
I don't think Rwanda Fashion Week just happens and then all of a sudden, Camilla and Charles show up. Yeah. I think you have to be clear, loud, focused, and consistent. And then they're like, Tuneza and Yokitu. Yes, Mark. Patricia, give me a minute. Let me hear from the only guy on the panel. Maybe he's complain about manals.
A suggestion. So this jacket is from a great company called Painter, who are in the UK, and they do a pre-order model, so there's zero waste. And they started out making 100 pieces of a certain style of jacket, and then they'd launch another one over in 3 months' time. But they tell the story of the raw material, they tell the design story, they tell the product development story. How about having a Kenyan Fashion Week where everything on the catwalk costs no more than 2,500 bob?
Oh, that would be good.
But everything is about pre-order. So it's designed. You work out the supply chain, you join up all of the dots, and then everybody who goes knows that they're going to be able to afford it if they put their name down and if they put their money up, and if the brand gets, say, an order for 1,000 pieces. Because then you get economies of scale, but you de-risk it.
I hear you. Patricia?
I think and just going back to your question around, even staples like T-shirts and people supplying beads and buttons, I think it also boils down to when we use the hashtag or use the phrase made in Kenya and then use words like fashion, designer, it almost makes it a perception of being fashionable, having somebody who's a designer to design an outfit, and it remains aspirational. Yes. Because it's something that you need to aspire to so that one day you can wear this, and we take away the access where everybody can access fashion. And fashion is not just an amazing outfit to attend an event. It's the T-shirts, it's the top, it's the underwear,
it's the leggings,
it's socks.
Yes,
it's
socks
and sandals and gumboots. So if and maybe this might be the thing that also has people thinking that, well, made in Kenya, it's a luxury for me. I just need clothes to go to work. I need clothes to do my job, right? And so when you think about the clothes that you wear day to day, then you think about the mutumba or the things that you can get that don't cost over 2,000 bob or over 1,000 bob so that you can wear every day. And then you leave the made in Kenya fashion for when you have a wedding to attend or your graduation. How do we make it so that wearing something that is Kenyan is not just for the one special occasion? It's something that you're able to do every day in a small way. How do we encourage people to enter the industry, not just to create beautiful occasion type things, but also the day-to-day, everything that people can then participate in this industry?
If you take nothing else from this, please go back to every day. I've always said, when I sit in rooms with people who are always talking about, we're a tech startup, we're going to create something that's going to change the world, I'm like, please. You're also allowed to create Angry Birds. Angry Birds saved nobody, made tons of money, okay? You've got to also ask yourself, is the gap in an Angry Birds? Yes, there's tech and there's software and there's apps that will change the way farmers trade, and there's that kind of big, very noble task. But then again, there's Angry Birds. There's Angry Birds, and there's room for an Angry Birds. Wandia wants to go to the room. You wanted to jump on that, and I just wanted to ask you one final question. But you can comment, darling, and you have to think about it. That's why I'm giving you a moment. If we were to get together, get serious as an industry, and decide 2023 is the year we launch Kenya Fashion Week officially, is that something you're able to underwrite? To a certain extent. Look at me leaning back already in fear. Okay, Mom, go.
Okay, just to add up on what Patricia has just said, I also think, I don't know where this theory came from. I really don't know why people think made in Kenya is expensive. But I think the problem is, like she said earlier, information, getting the information to the person out there. Because me personally, I think the people who can really help us with getting the information to the local Kenyan is celebrities, influencers, content creators. I know I've seen several of them here, that's why I'm saying this. Because like, for example, my personal example is like a week ago, I did an ad with a content creator. And in 24 hours, I got 900 and almost 1,000 new followers in 24 hours. That's a big deal for any business. So I'll think the way I see content creators, it's they are freedom fighters when it comes to. I know it sounds big.
I am reporting for duty.
When it comes to fashion and made in Kenya, I think there are people to get or information out there. That's why you see maybe if a content creator who has already a following decides to get in the market, she has people to buy. So the problem, I think the problem is not because there are no people producing. The problem is getting the information out there to the normal Kenyan.
To the person who needs to. So tell me, and you can tell me no, they need to come with a plan as well. No, because we need money to be able to put together a Kenya Fashion Week. Yeah, it's expensive.
Actually, yeah, there needs to be a plan.
That's it.
Yeah, so we have actually supported Linda and her team at Collective over the years, I think maybe like 2 years, but not just like with cash, but also some other resources. But it's because we could see the progression of it. We could see that they moved from, being, like a small fashion show to some extent, and they were growing every year. And for us, that is what we want to see. Okay. So I'm not saying yes, but if there's a plan, then we could discuss it.
Okay. I'm going to finish by thanking you because I know one day I want to take this conversation to the room, and the room is buzzing. Tunataka kuuliza maswali. But I just want you to borrow from Anne Mutahi when she asked you to look at Vision 2030. I know you think people in Gava just say that word. Please read Vision 2030 and couple it with a document by McKinsey Global called Lions on the Move and the potentials of African economies. And when you look, Lions on the Move 2019 has just put Africa's consumer spending at just over $1 trillion. But that consumer spending, and remember, that's where you sit, because you're not a necessity. That consumer spending right now sits in South Africa, Nigeria, and Egypt in a big way. But Kenya, Ghana, and to some extent, one other country, and I'll look at the report, is right there in the places where 40% of people's income is spent on what you'd call necessities, but another 15% and growing is now discretionary spending. How do you capture that market? And I said I would talk about permission brands. When you go through the airport, you probably can't afford initially your first Christian Dior big item, but you can buy eyeliner, and you can buy a small perfume, and you can buy a lipstick. Those are permission brands. They allow you to enter the category. And you probably have big ticket items, 20,000 shillings, 15,000 shillings. But like I said, I mean, honestly, one day you'll tell me this story, because when I first walked into Vivo, I was like, so yoga pants, me, really? I said, no, what, stretchy material? But it was a permission item, because now you know what happens every time these pants come out. And they have to be panel, please don't change it. I own 7 black, I own 3 blue, and I think green, khaki-ish, I own another 4. Because that's how I dress. I need permission. And then, I'll buy the big ticket items, but I need to be able to get into a store. I want to be able to get into your fashion brand and have a permission item that I can walk out with that is 2,000 bob, 3,000 bob. Because what happens is I grow into your category. Because the eyeliner was great and the lip balm was great from Christian Dior, you buy the perfume. And as you grow, because you grow with brands, you buy the handbag. And one day you buy the trench coat. I'm not quite sure whether you should. You should buy a house first. But I have to leave you with that, because I think for me, even when I kept asking you, really, price is going up? But I can still buy this. It's still affordable. And I think there is room, as the panel has said, for us to rethink the industry, and we're going to call it that, rethink the ideation, and then ask ourselves, where really are the opportunities? Because the opportunities are not in the one-off wedding dress, or the one for the Itara, and the one for the Rorashio. Because mukifanya hivyo hamutakula, I'm just telling you, you will die hungry. So we got to find other ways to get into the market. I want to thank you for putting up with me. Wandia knows I'm supposed to be somewhere, and now she's going to handle the Q&A, but I'm going to sit here in case you all want to yell at me for one reason or another. Okay? Hey, Mandy. Hey.
All right,
Thank
please
you.
let's clap for the panel and for Caroline. And I think we have some mics that can be passed around.
I will share mine, but I have a
who's
cold.
going to be the brave first comment? Oh, plenty.
Nice.
A mic's coming around.
All right, I'll be the brave fast one. So from a business perspective...
Please share who you are.
Oh,
just
okay.
your name and, yeah.
Okay, I'm Miriano Chola from Endeavor, Kenya. My question is, from a business side, I think the conversation about luxury versus day-to-day is also how scalable our fashion business is. Because I think the perception that most financiers have is that fashion businesses are niche and they're not growth businesses. So we had Wandia talk about 30 to 40 year-on-year growth. How many of those businesses can we generate from our sector? What's holding us back? And Wakiuru, I guess the question is, are you seeing your early stage finance efforts unlock follow-on capital to grow businesses? Because it's not just about starting, it's also about growing. And then the final question is around, Carol, fashion businesses can be tech startups. You know, what's the role of tech innovation? Are we thinking about virtual stylists, you know? We hear abroad about, you know, 3D testing of a dress before I buy. We also, data analysis, you know, for designers, what's hot, what's not. So what's the role of tech innovation in all of this? But underlying all of this, can we scale made in Kenya businesses? Because that's how we're going to grow, take a share of the market.
I wanna get 2 more questions, and then whoever wants to answer from the panel.
I hope you'll take it through that, because it's brilliant. Morning, everyone. My name is Wamboi Mbarira. I run the Retail Trade Association of Kenya. The word I want to use in the room is industry. There is Fashion Council. There are many other business membership organizations. Please put your hand up if you're a member of any. So how do you become an industry if you're not joining the membership organizations that will help you become an industry to be able to push forth what you need? Wandia alone cannot remove the duty. She's an individual, and the government will look at her as an individual. Join a business membership organization. Mark used to be a member of RETRAC. Wandia is a member of Vivo. Join a membership organization so that your voice can then be heard. And then the things that we are saying in this room get to the table. You have Anne here. Really, she can push it forward, but you have to be an industry. You have to be an industry. And to Esther's words, perception is, when I was growing up, made in Kenya meant Annie McCreath or Connie. You're listening to big names, so it becomes a big name thing. How do you bring up everyone else by having that conversation as an industry?
One more?
Good morning. My name is Molly Mungai. I'm very interested in knowing more about the Retail Association. And my question will be to the panel, especially to the musician, because I have a musician daughter. There's a time when
you can say her name so people know.
Okay, my daughter Miss Karun, who could have been here today. I've watched the journey of local music being accepted locally. Whether you are singing those shining whatever, or just singing what you like to sing. So my question is, can we as fashion, in the apparel, retail, because we need retail very strongly, we can do the production. I don't think there's a problem, as long as we can scale by having cheap fabric. But can we go to the malls and say, you know, okay, Vivo is 100% Kenyan. What about across? We have Elsie Glamour, we have whatever. If I want just basics and I don't get them at Vivo because of whatever reason, I go across. Can we have, like you did, local music content had to be 40% local, yeah? And the local music stations actually took very long to do that. But now we listen to local music, and that has opened the music industry. So even for the fashion industry, is that some way we can go so that we local designers can do our production? I would love to just make skirts. Skirts. I wake up in the morning, small, long, short, black, blue. I don't mind. I will focus, I will specialize in making skirts as long as I can sell them. That's my question.
Okay, over to the panel. Patricia, you look like you're ready.
So maybe I think I can answer your question first. I think what I know, at least the many designers that I know, it kind of also stemmed from them solving a problem, right? It's like, for instance, Anita of Siri Studio. She used to make her own clothes. And you just see them, you're like, wow, that dress is amazing. And then she's like, yeah, I made it myself. Are there more? And I'm pretty sure a lot of people were just like, I would love to buy that outfit. And so her brand came out of that. And you start to think, wow, okay, fine, I can finally wear what she creates because I can't see anybody else making that. It also stems from her ideas and her creativity. And I know there's a lot of people who created brands out of that. They were solving a problem. It wasn't necessarily, I can make money out of this fashion thing. It was solving a problem of not seeing what they want to wear and then making that for themselves. And there's so many people who still here, I would love to buy what they would make. If Sunny decided to start a fashion brand, I want to wear anything that he puts, even if it's socks. I will buy a sock, and then if I can't afford a pair, I'll buy one and save up for the other. Same with Mandy, the way she wears her clothes. And so if we have brands which, for instance, you say you make skirts, we have somebody else who makes tops, somebody else makes pants, because I feel like a lot of people, when they also think about getting a Kenyan outfit, it's a bespoke, custom, I need an outfit for a wedding. I need an outfit for my birthday. So you'll go to, I'm sure somebody will go to Anita, and because she also does custom outfits, she will make an outfit there. Nobody is thinking, okay, I know I love Maua wear tops, and I know I can get a top there that I can pair with pants here and, have an outfit, and I don't have to wait 2 weeks for the outfit to be made or to look for the fundi, and then iko tayari, ulisema Tuesday, aya, madam, Thursday mefika, my thing is on Saturday, so Saturday morning you're still there stressing, right, because of an outfit. But if we had an industry where people felt comfortable enough to know that they can scale in that way, I think how personally myself and people like myself can help scale is to also, we don't just post, this is a nice top from here. We also show people how to wear the stuff, right? And one of the things that I do when I am wearing Kenyan, I don't just wear once. That's one thing I always say. I'm not getting an outfit to wear one time, because as a regular human being, I wear outfits multiple times. So I won't, some people will ask, but you've been seen in that outfit before. And I'm like, exactly, because that's how we wear clothes. And, I could wear this top with the pants that it came with, but then I also know I can wear this top with jeans and a jacket from somewhere else. So how I think we can support scaling is also showing people how to wear the clothes, because some people think, well, I'm not fashionable, and if it's a fashion brand, I'm not a fashionista. You don't have to be a fashionista, but you can look to the fashionistas to show you how to wear the clothes in an affordable, scalable way. So yes, I think it would be amazing to then allow people in the industry to just focus on the one thing, and then you're able to scale. You can have apps that put outfits together. Show people how to wear them, if it's tech, and then basically have content creators, stylists, then also show you how to put those things together. Because the number of times I've also thought, I would love a bag that I can do this with. Maybe I can just get one made. And then I start to think about, okay, I want it to be leather, and I want it to have zips that do this, and da-da-da-da. Then I'm like, I can't make that for myself. I wonder if I can work with Sandstorm, but then doing this, and then how much will it cost? And then people will see it, they'll ask for it. Is it scalable? Then the idea just, let me just try and find a bag. So I think all of us are trying to solve a problem, and if there is an industry that can support it, then yeah.
So I'll answer the question that Marianne asked around scalability and whether HEVA is seeing our investments start to pay off. So we started investing in 2015, and I think like 60% of the businesses that we invested in our first fund were in fashion. The needs were quite basic. They were like, I want to be able to move from producing in my house to a space, like a production space. The question around whether we've seen our investments pay off, 100% yes. So the thing is that we realized a very long time ago, is that with this sector, we cannot apply the same lens when, like we do in tech or agriculture around scalability and returns in a sense. So there's something around patient capital. So we are starting to see our very early investments start to scale now. And that's because we came in very, very early. But I'd say for anyone who's coming in now, there's definitely a lot of potential in terms of like businesses that are able to scale. The other thing I wanted to say is the application of the investments. So, like I said, there's like a Silicon Valley kind of like model where we expect businesses to shoot up in like 2 seconds, and then like that one unicorn. But the thing is to be able to understand that the sector is still quite small, and that any support is not just financial support. There's also a lot of other things that you have to support the business in. It's access to market, it's skills, it's branding, and being able to support them around that. So as an investor, you have to come in knowing that you're not just doing one thing, but you're supporting the business all around. The second thing I wanted to say was around tech. And I think there's a lot of room for tech in the fashion space. So we are seeing a lot of innovations around this space, whether it's in production of fabrics, figuring out like this circular economy and how to reduce waste. But then the other thing that's interesting that I recently saw was a company that's trying to figure out sizing for African bodies. So being able to aggregate all the data that they get from all the designers and the sizing issue, whether it's the waist, the hips to waist ratio, all that stuff, aggregating that and coming up with sizing, in a sense, for different markets. Because what you find in Kenya is not what you find in Nigeria or Rwanda or wherever. So I think there's definitely a lot of room for innovations around the fashion space. And we're seeing so many amazing ideas coming up. And I think that is also room for investment. So for an investor who's looking for that sort of like skill, I think there's also like the creative space where you look at fashion, the space between fashion and tech and what that looks like. Yeah.
I want to take it back to the floor. We've got a few hands. Where's the mic? Lots of hands. Okay, we're going to take like 5 comments now. We'll start with Carol.
Thank you, Wandia. I can see Anne Mutahi has left, and Caroline, and I really wanted to address Anne. But I'll make sure that somebody records my speech and gets it to her. So I'm going to talk like a designer because I'm hearing everybody else talking. I've not had a designer talking properly apart from her. And all that I'm hearing is people telling us what to do. Am I right? Or what we should do? Or what they think we should do, or what we're not doing, right? How about we tell them what is, what happens on the ground? Because honestly, you've got to speak out. You've got to say what the real problem is. Otherwise, they will use imagination to tell us how to solve it. And in the next meeting, they will tell us what we're not doing right. Wandia, you're not in that list because you're one of the solutions that we're looking for. So the thing is, the reality on the ground is us designers react. When you come and tell me you need a dress by Sunday, like Susie here does, I'm reacting to her need, okay? And that reaction is what puts food on the table that day. Because of the problems on the ground, we spend more time dealing with the solution that is the need of the day. And that is to react to what everybody else wants. So when you come here and say, scale it, how do I scale a reaction? You understand? To be able to scale, as a designer, you've got to identify that one product that you're good in. And that's why Caroline is saying, give me something I can pick up and is a solution. I want 7 of them. That is what Wandia has done. So as designers, I won't tell you much. And I'm going to speak on behalf. I could be making 10 reactives. Susie's wedding, Wandia's, I don't know, going where, But you've got to identify that one thing that you execute well. And find 30 minutes in a week to scale that one product. While you react, because reaction is a reality, right? So if you go to HEVA today and tell HEVA, that scalable product, that one skirt that I know how to do well, like Molly said here, if I make 1,000 of them, I can sell to so-and-so, and I need 10,000 shillings to buy 1,000 meters of fabric to make that one skirt at the lowest rate so that I can sell the units that I'm looking at. That is scalability, in simple terms. So what I would like to hear in the room, like for example, if Molly speaks, Molly owns a school, okay? She does not make clothes every day. If you speak to Mambo there, she'll tell you what happens every single day. But the designers in the room listen. We listen to you guys. We take our handbags. We go home and say, it was a nice day. We had breakfast at Sarova. And then I go and make the clothes that Susie needed by Saturday. It's a fact, right? Okay? So what is the solution we want in the room? Is you guys, I will make my reactive products, but I have 7 skirts. If I take them to Wandia, she'll put them on Shop Zetu, and I'll continue selling. Okay? So if you find a unit that has a collaborative one, or at least an opportunity for you to throw that one piece to grow, engage slowly, and slowly by slowly we'll have more scalable products in the market. Okay? So I'm a designer who's been in the market for over 20 years. And today I'm on my retirement phase. Okay? Honestly, because we have the new guys coming up, 6 months, right? So retirement is not about age. It's about the stage at which you are at in business, right? So where am I at now? Is how do I make sure that even when I'm not working, my business does not shut down? So what did I do? I went to Strathmore Business School and told them, look, my biggest problem over 20 years is how to do this biashara. I know how to make good clothes, but I don't know how to walk out of it and still continue earning money. And that's the reality on the ground, isn't it? Today you're going to have a baby, you close shop. Your tailors pack and go, or, or replica your things, like they do with me all the time. Yeah. So we are an angry lot, man. We're just here we have to have breakfast one day, and then we go home. We're just annoyed, So what will I say? Designers, come on board. There's a program in Strathmore Business School that allows you to continue hustling. You pick one item, they hold the business side of things, they pair you up with the Wandias and the HEVAs of this world, so that one product can produce scalable products while you continue to hustle, because that's the reality on the ground. So I'm welcoming you all to visit that portal, and it's not about me, it's not for me. We need to have healthy competition, and that is called collaboration. Do not say it's a Karokinoti product or a Wandia process. It is a collective platform where a solution will be found. So please engage in collaboration, because I will not lie to you. I'm wearing a Karokinoti and I'm wearing a Fushini. I mean, I will not ask somebody to wear my clothes and not wear anybody else's. Isn't it? Yeah. So please diversify, open your minds, make sure we have healthy jealousy, and do not, block your growth because you don't want to prosper anywhere else. Let us collaborate. My door is open. Let's walk into Strathmore, get into the class, get scalable products, and the next time we have a meeting here, we're not being told by non-fashion designers what to do. Thank you very much. I don't know whether that was a question or a comment, but...
Thank you. We had many hands up, Shiro. Although even those younger than us can tell us what to do. It's okay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nima Adam. I'm a founder and designer of Carl Designs and ambassador of Tukatech, which is a 3D company in Africa. So if you want to talk to me after this. How sustainable is our industry? Actually, Carl Design is based in Kenya too. And I've worked with this amazing lady here. Connie, love you. So, and do we think of the end product, the end life of the product? Do we think of circular fashion? What's the next stage? You produce, so what? If you do mass production, do you sell everything? I think we should move into made on demand. And, do we collaborate enough? That's another question for the designers. Thank you.
Good morning, all. I'm Shiro Wawero Waithaka. I'm not even sure what I am these days. I'm a work in progress. I'm an interior architect turned carpenter, turned fashion designer, turned lover of everything made in Kenya. First of all, clap for yourselves. You have done so well. These days, I live in Instagram. I've just bumped into our amazing designer here in the toilet, here, and literally bought 2 pieces of jewelry. I said, I need your stuff. She says, I have them in the car. Who here has anything in the car? I will buy from you if you have in the car. That's what we need to do. Connie, thank you. We are not going to wait for one fashion week. We will not do that. I think our challenge is we are caught in the confusion of the internet. We see what Paris is doing. We see what Rwanda is doing. London Fashion Week. We will never afford to hold a fashion week of that level. I'm offering a venue of 200 people on the grass. Not in Nairobi, I will tell you where if you're interested. We can do it affordably. Me, I use my phone. By the way, I'm also the photographer of my company. It is a very basic phone. There's technology. We cannot wait and beg brands to support us. You must remember, you're a brand as well. They need you too, okay? Don't wait for once a year. Why can't we hold this monthly? Aren't we trying to sell? Go to business school, as Carol has told you. I've gone to business school. Honestly, we are so emotional as creatives. We don't want anyone else to know what we're doing. It's so secret. The season has passed, eh? I'm now making ponchos. They started off as bed runners. Bed runner. Now we are wearing them. Don't wait, because we'll take over the space, okay? Share. People, share, you're always saying what you do. Yeah, not just for self. So people know you can go from being a carpenter. I can't stitch anything, but I can work with people who make stuff. So I don't make this. I work with people who make for me. You don't have to stress and buy 7 more machines. Me have a factory in Kikuyu for carpentry. Let me tell you, please don't start a factory, you will die. It's a madness. The tax, the what, raw material is an impossibility in Kenya the way it is. But does not mean we wait for policy. Start, policy follows you. Please remember that. You will beg the government of today, the one of tomorrow, and the one after that, because that is what they like doing. But we can change this. Use innovation. Innovation is not an app. Honestly, innovation is not an app. Innovation is a different mindset. I make wooden trays. You know the one for tea? It is not fashionable or funky, but it is practical. It is my bestseller to date. A tray. Okay? A tray. Make me underwear that fits my bum. Please. Please, these are the things that are small and tight. Who in this room makes underwear? Please. Nobody. But we need underwear every day, I think. And please make it cotton. This climate is for cotton. Nobody still, I swear, today I promise I will make underwear. I've talked about this for so long. And nobody still wants to make underwear. We want to make clothes, big clothes. Why? I'll buy a pack of 5 underwear any day. Innovation is not an app only. Innovation is serving a need we need. And where are you? I love your shoes. Discovered you the other day. There's no one who doesn't hear about that shoe. I don't have to make it myself, but I will wear it. Let's not be in unhealthy competition. If you love something that another designer makes and you can't, ask her. Ask her to make it for you under your label. It's okay. You don't have to sit there with, we get creative block, right? Like writer's block. And you're frozen and your brand does not grow because you're still trying to be the same one dealing with Kanjo, Kiare, Suji, what? You get lock. Ask someone else to make for you. And that's how I'm sure Rwanda is doing this. We're coming there soon. As now, I don't know where Fan What now, from Fan Kids, whatever will be. But we'll be in Rwanda soon, okay? But you don't have to do it alone, good people. Please make me underwear that's cotton. I'm at 12, sometimes 14. I beg. If you want to make it sexy, put a ribbon. But I just need a practical panty for myself, my daughter. I beg, okay? For our African bums, please, I beg you. Thank you.
Sorry, we have this side of the room as well. Linda will come to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ibtisam, also known as Hijabified on Instagram. Mine is actually a reminder to the designers in this room. There's a lot of Muslims in Kenya, and we love fashion, but we're currently struggling. A lot of you forget about our existence. You forget to, and I was talking to Wandia actually, I think a year ago when we created kimonos with her. we overthink this thing. Oh, maybe they want a niqab, I don't know how to do it. Actually, just work with us. We really just want long sleeves and something that reaches the real, like our ankles, and we're good to go. So this is a reminder, there's an opportunity you're not tapping into, and we're ready to spend money, because right now I have to book a ticket to go to Turkey to buy an outfit. Then I come here, I post it on Instagram, everyone's like, where you get it from? I'm not gatekeeping, I got it from Turkey, but imagine if a lot of you, or some of you, because I know it's not something that all of you would be interested in, could think about it, you know, create. We are here, we're ready, we are willing to spend, but you all are not allowing us to spend to buy Kenya. So it's just a reminder. Thank you, Wandia.
There were some other hands up here. This table.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Caleb, and I'm an editor with Minority Africa, and I think my question is very connected to what she was asking. Particularly around access and who we think has kind of like access to the clothes we make. And I think Patricia was talking about like language, right? So how do we create accessible language that people are able to see, oh, like this is not something that I can't afford, or that's not, you know, accessible to me. And I guess my brother question is, because I've heard a lot about the business side of it and like, you know, scaling, but how can we create much more conscious fashion brands that sort of incorporate realities that are very different from, you know, the perfect or like the ideal client base you have in mind? So like, do you think it's something that is even necessary to create much more conscious fashion brands? And how do you go about that?
Great question. Take a couple of more here, and then we'll come to Olivia. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Yusta Segete. I'm a TV producer at KTN. I'd like to speak on behalf of media. My question would be, do you think the media has a role in, you know, advocating for all this fashion industry, etc. Just looking back at when I was growing up, I'd see programs like Fashion Police Corp, I don't know, Fashion Police Watch, something like that. But there is no fashion content right now on TV, on radio, at least with social media, Instagram, Facebook, we really try. And even if there is, and even if there is, I mean, is media doing enough to push the content out there for people to watch? Because reality is, people watch TV. From the, you know, geopoll that we get, you know, people watch TV, millions on a daily. Citizen, KTN, name them, you know. When you go to radio, they do listen to radio. And good thing, media has also upgraded. You know, you can stream online concurrently while watching TV. So you have no reason to not to watch TV if you don't have an aerial. I mean, if a program is like Sunday, 6:30 p.m. and you're on the move, you can easily stream on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. So my question is media doing enough? And secondly, even if we are not doing enough, are there any fashion ideas that media can collaborate with either fashion designers, stylists, name them? I mean, we are here for it, and I think it's time that we use media proactively for fashion.
I think good time to bring Olivia in. And yes, there's so much more media can do.
Hello, I actually forgot what I was going to ask because my colleague here, please raise your hand. Currently I'm wearing Mambo Pambo. Raise your hand if you've been on 00 Direct and you've dressed me. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Yeah. Patricia can raise your hand. You've been on 00 Direct. Yeah. But maybe not. Okay. So yeah, a couple of people, actually a lot of designers have. And when I started the show, it was to understand the industry, to help grow the industry. It was a difficult time, of course, but it was also for me to see and try and understand where exactly are we as an industry. I had no clue. I was completely ignorant in a very, very bad way. And what I've learned is that, oh my God, the talent is incredible. In fact, Kawira, I have a bone to pick with you because when I bought this dress, I bought this, what would you call this? I bought the kimono, but I needed something to wear with it. And when she paired it with this, I was like, oh, and how much is this? I said, oh, we don't sell that. This one, it's just a shoot. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is an everyday wear. You should be stocking this, and it fits and it feels incredible, you know? So in addition to the very avant-garde wear that we have in store, please have items like this dress that we can pair it with. My issue is, one, Kenya Fashion Council. I have bought a Kenya Odongo. I don't know if a Kenya is here. I've bought a Kenya Odongo. I know a couple of people in the council. I've been dressed by Iona, Peggy O, but none of them have come and said, Olivia, here are some other names. In fact, most of you, other than Kawira and stylist Wamboi Thimba, Wamboi, raise your hand. Is she still around? Wamboi Thimba, I'd seen her earlier. Have ever passed it forward. Oh, yeah, I'm even looking at you. None of them have ever passed and said, Olivia, they will say, oh, it was great, I loved it. Someone says, yeah, I've had so many inquiries, it's been so good, I've sold this piece, that piece. But even you, Wandia, you've never said, Olivia, that was great on Double O, you've been twice. Have never said, here's this person, here's this brand, here's this woman who's just started her label, here's this person, you know? So I have two bones to pick, actually, with the people in this room. One is collaboration amongst yourselves. I feel that there's not enough support. Yeah, we're here, we're talking, we want to grow. Then you'll go and do your own thing. Yeah? Where is the Zanta? I see you. Fantastic pieces. I think she was around. Yeah? But Zanta didn't say, oh, great. Here now is another designer or another fashion entrepreneur or another stylist that I think you should showcase, that I think would benefit from the publicity that you should. Even my colleague has no idea that I do this, and it's unfortunate. You know, but you know, that's just life. I have like 4 followers on the Insta, you know. If you follow me, you'll be number 5. So I don't blame her for that, you know, because the show is only once a week anyway on Saturdays, yeah? But I think work together more. Recently, I was dressed by Bitnaware, KE, and I found out about Bitnaware because the lady who does our social media suggested the brand, and they came on and said, know what we do? We actually have access to what we do is we're able to take you as a budding designer and design all what you need and produce all what you need. Wandia, what is that called? You know what that's called, right?
Well, they do manufacturing for other brands.
Yeah, they do manufacturing for other brands. So I'm saying, oh, can we not do that? Yes, there are people who do that. They just didn't have platforms and access to visibility, you know? So if you want to start a fashion label, if you want to collaborate with somebody, Bitnaware, KE, they do that, right? So I think working together as designers, I think one of your biggest flaws, promoting each other, apart from, of course, Wandia now with Shop Zetu and other platforms, but also the Fashion Council, right? You are the Fashion Council of Kenya. And yet I just see you guys promoting yourselves. Yeah, your own brands, your own designs. Yeah, there's no big scale promotion of the industry as a whole. But yeah, there are people in media promoting. Yeah,
all right.
Thanks.
So Olivia, from now on, every time you have someone on the show, before they leave, say, please recommend 2 or 3 others I can bring on. So that we come ready with that question, because you need to tell us. We're too busy thinking about all the stress back at work. When you do go on Shop Zetu, you can actually see there is a section where you click for just the Made in Kenya brands. And we hope those of you who aren't on the platform will join us. All price points. And you can see that growing every week. Every single week, we're listing new brands, and we hope to keep doing that. I know time is running out, so I would like to take a last round. I know there were lots of hands up, maybe 3 more from the room, and then we'll ask our panelists to say a few things. Okay, I'm conscious that I've ignored that side. So please, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, are we good? Is there anyone here who's really desperate? Brian and Mandy. Okay, 7. 7, and then the conversation doesn't stop here. Please, please continue to talk about it through whatever platforms you have, and then we'll come back and give our panelists a chance to say one last thing. All right, where were we? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sheeny, and I work with Equator, which is a shoe and bag brand made in Kenya. And I also work with African Lifestyle Hub, which is a collective of brands that come together to promote Made in Kenya. And my question is, what is Made in Kenya? And the reason I'm putting this question out there is sometimes as African Lifestyle Hub, we have brands that come to us and want to be part of the store, but they're not made in Africa. They're probably made in Dubai or Turkey or India or China, but they're still designed by Kenyans. So my question to this room would be, what is made in Kenya, given that today's event is about made in Kenya?
Okay, next, was there anyone else on this? Yes, Isaac?
Morning, my name is Isaac Maluki, Director of Shona EPZ Limited, and we are a menstrual hygiene management factory, and we also are careful being Kenyan owned to support a lot of local artists, and we give the opportunity to manufacture your products. So in as much as when we're doing our exports, we are the first Kenyan owned to do direct exports to the US, UK, and France. But thank you. And for those clients, we have minimum orders, like 180,000 pieces of t-shirts per month, maybe for a year's order. But for Kenyans, we have made an effort to give you zero minimum order quantity. So if you want to just make 5 pieces, 20 pieces, 100 pieces, we are available to do that for you. We've done for a few of them here. Some we have managed to give properly. Others, I mean, it's been a bit disappointing from our side, simply because probably our order quantities were quite large. And I understand in the EPZ sector, majority of the factories are foreign owned. Therefore, you find they source everything they need from their home countries. And as well, they're not too interested in breaking their large lines to support the local artists. For us, we are trying to promote vertical integration. So if you also have something that you can make and supply us as a factory, we are willing to work with you and see if we can help you get the right quality. We will buy it from you, be it zips, be it buttons, whatever it is, so that we can help promote vertical integration and promote made in Kenya and also sourced from Kenya. Thank you.
So Isaac, before you sit down, Isaac, you started when?
We started 4.5 years ago with 47 workers. Now we are 620 and hoping to get to 1,500 by the end of the year.
Did I leave? I had counted a number of hands. Yes, Kawera and then Linda. Oh, Katush.
Sorry, hello. My name is Katungulu Mwendwa, and I run the brand Katush. Oh, thank you. I had a question, and I think it's directed maybe to HEVA. But I've heard a lot about collaboration and with working with other designers. But I think something else that I've learned over the years is also building a proper and equipped team, and it's been very challenging. I mean, in many ways, I've found people that I've brought on board who've told me they learned quality control from a textbook. And this goes to the institutions, our learning institutions. And I know it can be quite challenging because they're looking for funding from public sector. And I've been wondering if it's possible for institutions like HEVA to then maybe work with the universities to see if they can fund them so that they are then able to plug into the industry and assist us with our businesses.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kawera Mambo Pambo. I was actually just what she said, and then I wanted to add just a little more. Client education. I've been doing this for about 8 years, and I find sometimes clients also need some education. You need to explain why is this 12,000? You know, there's VAT, there's cost of fabric. Then as designers on this other end also, we need to educate ourselves just a little more. What goes into a business? Yeah? What goes into a business? You know, you want to build a sustainable brand, yet you're selling something for 500. Then when I ask, how did you cost this? You say, oh, I'm working from home. How are you building a sustainable brand like that? Because then it creates unhealthy competition and makes it that much harder for you to grow. You'll be in the business for 2-3 years, and then you'll shut down. And then the perception we're creating is that fashion is not a viable business. But the foundation is just not right. We educate ourselves, we educate our clients, and I guess the curriculum too, because my own mother thinks I'm a fundi. which is fine, but every time I'm with her, I have to explain. We create, you have to create. You have to think, is this sustainable? Is this going to grow? And that way, sustainability is something that now we are able to address. Because I think even for Shop Zetu stockists, you do one season and then you're stuck. Why? Because you saw Kawera doing something and you thought it was interesting and you did it. But have you asked yourself, how am I growing as a designer? And how am I growing with my clients? Because your clients also need to grow with you. So you have to explain quality of fabric, stitching, garment construction, doesn't fit quite right, it's pinching. And that is why you find a lot of designers just burn out, and it's a continuous struggle. Educate yourself, educate clients. That applies to me too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is more of a comment than a question. I know we talked about Kenya Design Week possibly coming up, but would love to welcome any designers or brands here to come and showcase in Rwanda. And maybe we could think about collaborating here, because there's a lot of opportunity for us also. We've done a number of pop-ups and it's really been successful. So Connie, if you're interested, we'd love to think through maybe coming here and joining efforts. There's a lot of possibility there, especially as I think Kenya is a signatory for ACFTA. So it'll be a lot of movement of goods. So maybe we can think bigger than retailing just in Kenya or just in Rwanda. It's like think about each other.
Yeah, and just to say that trade agreement works. So, you know, as when Vivo opened in Kigali, we were a bit worried, you know, how all this movement across borders was going to work, but we actually have been able to send product every 2 weeks. We have never had to pay any duty. As long as you have the documentation in place to prove that it was made in Kenya, Rwanda will take that product duty-free. And we want to see it coming back this way as well. Yeah. Sorry, we had, we're going to come to the panel at the end. We had Babu and Mandy.
Good morning. My name is Brian Babu. I am a stylist. I think I've worked with, 3/4 of people in this room. First I want to appreciate all the designers and all the work you put in. Every single person who has been able to send me clothes or work with, I just want to take this time to just appreciate all of you. Secondly, there's one thing that keeps on coming up continuously, and I don't know if I think you should look at it as designers in general. I don't know if there's a shortage of fabric or just people copy each other or something. If I am supposed to champion your brand and push for you your brand and have something specific to do with your brand so that people know your brand, you can't be going to, let's say, what Tunu, the fabric Tunu has is what Zia is also making, is also what so-and-so is also making. If we can, I don't know if that's something that can be fixed or something you can work on, but I think that has been the biggest challenge. The other thing is people do not know your products. I might know you as a stylist, but then there isn't enough word out there about your products. And yes, there are people who are willing to sell, and there are very many small brands and even the older brands that have things that people can buy, but then no one knows where you are. No one knows their pricing. Ama mnyindo wale mnafanyanga DM for prices. Make your product available, market online. I know it's something we say all the time, and we'll have more of these forums continuously and speak about the same things if you don't effect anything and any change. There's scaling, there's all those things, but please make your products known and available. Improve your product, change your product. I feel like there are people who have been designing the same thing over and over again, which is great. Change it up, introduce something new. Also, the other thing that has continuously come up is these clothes are for events. People need clothes to wear every day, and people can spend money within the right price point and if it makes sense. So if all designers stick to, we are designing clothes for occasions, how many people will spend 20K for a dress they can only wear once? Even you as a person, how many times will you buy a 20K jacket, that you can only wear once, because of course it's 20K, and because you want to charge 20K, you're going to add things, embroidery, zips, I don't know, frills and everything. Well, you can make a 5K or a 6K thing that you can sell 20 of them. Think about it. There is the market. The market is there for sure, but also Kenyans are reasonable shoppers. They only buy things they can use more than once. Thank you.
I think before Mandy, you jump in, I just want to say, I mean, that's one of the reasons we built Shop Zetu, is so that brands can be visible. And Esther, with Elsie Glamour, that started 6 months ago, is already in the top 20% of the brands selling on Shop Zetu, because people now can come and find her products. And so it's platforms like this that can help raise that awareness. Mandy and us worked very recently on a special project. I don't know if you've seen it. We partnered with Bold Network Africa and came up with a degendered fashion collection that I think is pioneering, and I hope will change mindsets as well in this country. But Mandy did all the styling, amazing styling for that. But yeah, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Amanda, and I'm a stylist, but also a fashion lover, and anything locally made, continentally made, African made. I have a few questions and a few remarks. So let me start with the questions first, before I forget. And my first question is to, you have supported Rwanda Collective, and you mentioned that you saw the projections and the growth. So my question is, with that in mind and the studies, and what is lacking here for us to have a fashion week, for instance? What data do you have that we can learn from, and maybe everyone in our own corners, and as we collaborate, to do better and perhaps to have something, a stone? Because it's, like Connie said, like in the last 2 years, we've seen growth. And if you've been here enough, 20 years, you've seen growth. So we have something. So what do we need to have that? But that's one. That's once a year. What are other small, maybe not small, but pockets of things that will help to also grow the same thing that can, maybe we don't have to meet here as the people of the industry and vent and say what's working and what's not working. What can we do as pockets? And as a remark maybe to the producer, as a media house, we can't all do everything. I can't style and champion and someone else make the clothes. And also do the show for you. Come and meet us where we are, what we do, everybody, what they do, and you will get a show. Because at the end of the day, you're also, if you come and join the industry and you want to document it, you gotta do the work as well. So we can't do everything. Yeah, I think that was it. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna hand it back now and ask the panelists each to just say one thing, starting with Esther and coming down this way. Do you have a mic? Yeah.
Final remarks.
Final remarks, please. And if you can answer any of the questions that you thought were directed to you.
Mine is just a comment. I agree with several of you that we should collaborate. Let's not get into the market, for the fashion designers who are here, let's not get in the market with the mentality, I'm here to compete with so-and-so. Let's get in the market to collaborate and provide a solution to Kenyans. The second thing, I go back to content creators and influencers. I know I said you're freedom fighters, and I still insist that when it comes to made in Kenya, because people are willing to buy, but they don't know where to buy. And the minute your following trusts you, the minute you wear a brand, like Patricia has said, people will ask you, where did you get this from? And that's how we'll be able to get the word there. And not only, it will also help the economy at large as the whole of Kenya. And my last remarks will be, if you're new in the market, join Shop Zetu. It's really working out, and I'd like to say thank you to Wandia and everyone else who is out there trying to make the market better and create opportunities for other people. We are grateful.
So my remarks will be responding to the questions that were asked. So Katush asked about working to fund universities, and I just wanted to say, so like last year we put out a fund called Ignite Culture Fund, and we actually included like policy, capacity building, anyone could apply, even universities, and we did not get even one application. So there is only so much we can do. I think it needs a collective effort, perhaps maybe something that comes from you guys to the universities to come and access the funding. That's something that we would be happy to support. The second thing was around what is missing, like what is different. And what I wanted to say is, so like Rwanda, Linda and Collective RW, they knew exactly what they wanted, I would say. They came together as a group. And I remember one of the things that we did was experimenting with the pop-up. So where we realized that because Rwanda is still like pretty small in terms of like the economy, how would they be able to tap into the Kenyan market? And so we supported them to be able to access the Kenyan market by having them come for pop-ups. And like it's simple stuff, like it doesn't have to be big things, but that's what we wanted, or we want to see. So because we're not able to come up with the ideas ourselves, because all we're doing is being able to support financially. So if the designers were to come together and say, we want this, then we would see how can we be able to align some of our funding to be able to support that. But we've never gotten that. I think the most we have is Fashion Council asking us for support. But again, you realize that only a few people here are part of Fashion Council. So it's not a collective effort, and it's not representative of what the sector is.
I think for me, it's, I think in this room I've featured a lot of brands, but there's still a lot I can feature on my column. So I'm very open if you want to feature. I'm always open to featuring Kenyan brands. And also the collaborations that we do for the social branch, which we've begun, we are going to our 3rd edition. That's another way we can collaborate. So please reach out via my social media handles, or you can speak to me after this, and I'm open to that. Thanks. Yeah, it is, yeah.
One thing. I've been taking notes, so I have a whole page, but I'll try and be brief. I think one of the main things that we need to do is also ask each other, what do we need, right? You've spoken about not being able to get people to apply for the fund. Content creators are not just here to put on outfits. We are here to amplify information. We can amplify that there is an application for a fund, right? We're not just, mannequins. I mean, we'd love to be, but we can provide so much more. And it's not just us content creators as well. If you need to speak to the stylist so that you can ask them, what do your clients ask for most? What is it that they need? And vice versa. As content creators, we can also ask the designers, what do you need? How can we support? So I think the most important thing is also not to tell each other what you should do this, you should do that, is also ask each other, how can we support each other so that we can make this as sustainable as possible for as long as possible, and to foster relationships where collaboration just doesn't look like, can you make this for me so that we can sell it? It just means what more that I have shown I can offer can be of value to you. I think one of the most, I was really ambitious in 2020. I was like, okay, my wardrobe has to be 80-90% made in Kenya. She asked a question, but what is made in Kenya? Because a lot of times then brands reach out, hey, can you support? And they send you something, or you purchase something, and you see that the item is not made in Kenya, but maybe they printed something on it. So maybe their challenge is that they don't have the T-shirt or the, the base item. But there's room for all of us. There's room for the aspirational brands, and there's room for the everyday brands. And so if you're working towards building a brand that is aspirational enough for me to say, I'm in Rwanda, I have to go to Haute Basso to buy an outfit, right? Because you worked with people like Sunny, or you worked with people like Chimano, so I can see that that is an item I want to purchase. But then at the same time, if I decide I want to put money into every single brand I speak about, is it sustainable? Because I don't have, when I look at all the brands I want in my wardrobe, it means spending at least 100,000 a month on clothes. It's not sustainable for me. But then what can I do? What can I provide of value in a way that it's not also just influencers? They just want free stuff. But what are you getting back? So how can we all support in a way that's profitable, in a way that shows that we do value each other because we want to provide value to each other?
So one point, well, two short points. First is just to Brian's point about textiles and variety and so on. My understanding is that, and I think this is a consequence of a change in government policy, recently, or about 2 years ago, all of the disciplined forces, as they're called, were required to source all the fabric for their uniforms from local suppliers. And Thika Cloth Mills were a beneficiary of that. As a consequence, they've been able to invest, and we work with Thika Cloth Mills a lot, and as a consequence, they've been able to invest in new equipment, including new canvas, looms, and so on. But my understanding, I haven't seen it, but my understanding is that they've also made a significant investment in a digital textile printer, which will create access to, well, allow you to create original designs and to, because it's always minimums that are always the killer when it comes to original textiles. And I don't know the details. I don't know if they've got it set up yet, but I think it's worth bearing in mind and following up. And then final point, which is about part of what I'm up to at Opportunity Factory, which is one of the things that we haven't really touched on today, and it's kind of been noticeable by its absence, is the opportunities presented by the international market. And I think there's an international market out there that is looking for product that is made here, as well as I think there's a great opportunity here to sell much, much more made in Kenya product to Kenyans. And all I would ask is that, and I think what we're creating and what I'm planning on creating is, I think one of the reasons that people don't think about international is that it's really hard, because you have to start with a world-class product, but then you've got to have world-class content, you've got to have world-class CRM, you've got to have world-class logistics, you've got to have a return path. How the hell do you do that? There are all sorts of problems, challenges that need to be solved, and we're looking to find ways of solving those, and then we want to share the answers to those. Because when I went around and talked to agencies a while ago about e-commerce and international e-commerce, I found that I prefer to be the stupidest person in the room, because it means that I'm always learning, and I wasn't learning enough when I went round. So what I'm doing is I'm going to build something new, and I want to make it affordable and accessible. And I think the most important point amongst that, from that, is that a point of principle is that every brand needs to, especially when it comes to international sales, but I think generally it's really, really important when as you build your brand that you know who your customers are. I think often you sell through Amazon, I think, they hold on to the customer data. You need to have that you need to know your customer, otherwise you don't have a brand, you've got a wholesale client. So anyway, we don't have all the answers yet. It'll take us a while, but when we've got answers, then we want to make those answers and some of that capacity, some of those skills, some of those facilities available to Kenyan brands. And actually a final related point is that if a brand is truly made in Kenya, it should be using Kenyan creatives to express that brand. It should be using Kenyan storytellers, Kenyan stylists, Kenyan photographers. It should be using Kenyan marketing people, Kenyan social media specialists, and so on. There's a lot of capacity that some brands that are made in Kenya are effectively offshored to other parts of the world. And that's actually holding the whole industry back, because skills aren't being built up in the right way, experience isn't being delivered in the right way, and we need to find new ways to create more opportunities so that everything happens here, and then we go out to the world.
Okay, I want us to give a really warm round of appreciation to the panelists. Is this on? Yeah. I know there were lots of questions that still hadn't been answered or asked even. So this conversation doesn't end here. The Fashion Council, there are many members who have been in the room. Akini unfortunately wasn't able to make it, but they're a key part of the conversation. So if you're not a member and you're in the industry, please do join. I think EPZ factories like Shona, where Isaac is they're already making that world-class product because you had to start there. And so if you are now able to make for those of us that sell locally, that's fantastic. Before we close, I have to say a few thank yous. I'll make it quick. I want to thank Sarova, the Sarova Pan-Afric team, for setting this up and the breakfast that I hope you've all enjoyed. We've had Pixel Africa doing the live streaming and recording and the sound. Thank you very much. Shop Zetu and Vivo sits in Babadogo. We try and work with our neighbors as well. So we have Live Ad who printed the banners. And we also, the little gift bags that you have, everything in there was put together by Busyland Express. And it's good their name has Express because we literally gave them the order like 2 days ago. So they work very quickly. And the Shop Zetu team, some who are in the room, some aren't here, but we wouldn't be here without all of you. So thank you so, so much. And obviously to our panelists, our speakers, and the wonderful moderator who's had to leave. But I think the biggest thank you is really to all of you who came, those of you who've listened online. Patricia Idao, who chairs Vivo's board, is in the room, and one of the things Patricia likes to say whenever we have meetings and people are sort of wondering now what, is we can all do at least one thing. Now, that one thing is going to be different for all of you, whether it's you're going to go out there and ask different questions, or you're going to partner with different people, or you're going to make a different product, or you're going to collaborate with somebody new. You're going to buy something more consciously. Whatever it is, it's that one thing. Guys, this is 100 billion shilling industry in the next couple of years. Let Kenyans be a big part of that. Let Kenyan brands be a big part of that. And that is the challenge. So when we meet again, we will have those numbers that Rwanda seems to have. Because they're there. The numbers are there. The money is there. So let's make that happen. We just need to own it. There is a photo booth outside. If you haven't had your picture taken there, please do on your way out. I want to take pictures with a few of you, so I'll be standing around. And I just want to thank you all again for coming. Thank you.
Very